Good afternoon and welcome into the SPL. It always feels like to me I've been waiting all day to get to this point. Finch here joined by Aggro. And as always here, Aggro, I'm getting a little tired of saying it. We got some good sets lined up for today.
Should be some very competitive ones. Yesterday we saw the top 4 teams in the SPL. Today we'll see the bottom 4 teams in the standings at the very least. But certainly by no means are these going to be bad SPL games. I think every single one of these 4 teams has shown flashes of being able to climb and try and get towards that top 4.
And we just saw that flash from Obey, no longer winless after getting that win over eUnited, who will also be watching play. And at this point, Aggro, I think it's only fair that that hot seat shift from Obey down to eUnited, who are now 0-5 at this point, and will be in this very next game here for us. I feel as though that team has perhaps the most pressure on them out of anybody to find a win at this point. We have no more undefeated teams, so now we want to try and get to the point where we have no more defeated teams. I don't know if we have a word for that.
Yeah, winless squads, I suppose, the one for eUnited. And I agree. I think that this is a team that, you know, obviously making some pretty big roster swaps coming into this phase does give them a little bit of leeway, at the very least, to say, hey, you know, we're working through it. We have to try and get our guy accustomed to support in Snoopy's shoes and Guy J accustomed to the SPL level. I think that overall, though, we're 4 weeks in at the end of this game here. That's going to be 6 games in total for eUnited. I think it is fair to expect a little bit more progress from them than what we've seen, but it's not to say that there hasn't been any. Variety has returned to form in a lot of ways. I think he's had a much better Phase 2 in the back half of Phase 1. I think that Snoopy looked fantastic in their set, despite a loss up against Obey last week, and so that's a good sign. Guy J's found a ROM pick that has really worked for him, and he's looked very good on. The one thing that I think eUnited really does need to work on overall is Guy J's late game positioning. A couple times he's been caught out in some of these fights, and I think that has been a big reason for eUnited's struggles.
It was Guy J, I believe, that was caught out to decide that Obey match near the Fire Giant, if I'm not mistaken. So certainly there is some stuff for them to work on. I'm right there with you. I don't want to put it all on the rookie when there's a lot of things going wrong, but perhaps being put a bit under the microscope in this match because it's going to be going up against Renegades, and on that team they have one of the most veteran hunters there is in Barracuda. So I don't think this matchup is going to get easier for the rookie, and it doesn't stop there. This entire Renegades roster, I think in Phase 2, has looked kind of reinvigorated, Aggro.
Agreed. I think that this is a team that understands that they have the potential to get into that top 4 if they can play well enough, consistently enough. But that's been the problem for them, is that consistency. I know Bear is probably excited to go up against Guy J. He likes to tell me on our podcast that he's the reason that Guy J's in the SPL because Guy J soloed him in a ranked game. We'll see if Guy can repeat that performance here in the actual SPL. But overall, I think that the Renegades need to find a way to get through their picks and bans have gotten a little bit wonky. I'm looking forward to seeing how they attack that phase here today against eUnited.
Yeah, I want to make sure they know exactly what needs to be valued and make sure they're taking it away or prioritizing it on their team. Either way, though, I think the solo laner is one that really got to take an eye at. It was SOT that we had a chance to sit down with earlier today for the interview.
That's right, I'm here with Solo or Troll from the Renegades, and man, I just want to know, how are the Renegades feeling right now? You've had a couple of losses that have come through, but they've all looked really good from your side.
I mean, confidence has definitely been higher in recent times, but we're still committed to trying to get better, and end goal is definitely Worlds, so we have a few problems, like big problems we're trying to fix, like communication, God pool and stuff like that, so that's like our main focus right now, so it's not too bad.
Well, you're going to be going up today against eUnited, who did pretty well in Game 1 against Obey earlier this week, but they seem to struggle for the rest of the set. Do you feel pretty solid going into this matchup and the way that they've been growing so far this phase?
Yeah, definitely. eUnited's a pretty good team, but we beat them, I think, like 4 times last phase, and I think we can still beat them again, for sure.
So I think that the 2 people we've seen on eUnited that have done the most are Scream, and then Variety has a huge impact, and you're going to have to deal with them pretty often because of where you're positioned. Do you think that's going to be something difficult for your game, or do you think that they aren't going to make enough of an impact against you?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, they only have 1 Scream. I mean, it would be worse if they had 5 Screams, but I think I'll be fine. I mean, I just got to kind of probably play back a little bit more, but I think I'll be fine.
Well, awesome, man. It sounds like you have this figured out and you know what you're going to be doing, as well as the team here against eUnited. So thanks for your time and good luck in your games.
Thank you.
Hey, if you want more details on the 5 Screams thing, check out the eUnited team check-in on our SMITE Pro YouTube channel. Certainly worth a watch. But good to see that SOT is feeling confident there, huh? I mean, that should work well for them going into this next match, despite the fact that I think it could potentially be a difficult one. But I see no reason to delay us, aggro. Let's get into those picks and bans as soon as possible here and get ready for this very first game. It'll be Renegades in that first pick spot. And what I've been noticing here in this picks and bans is that things kind of come in pairs, right? If you're going to ban Olarun, you want to make sure that Freya's also banned. If you're going to ban Alma, you want to make sure Cthulhu's also banned. I mean, how important is it right now to be paying attention to the other sides of any of your bans?
Very important, because I think that, as you highlighted, there's a lot of strong things right now. I don't think that you can ban everything that is OP, you know, in pro players' hands. There's just a lot that's on the table, and for what it's worth, I think that makes for a more exciting Smite when there's a lot of things that are really strong on the battleground of the gods. But it does mean that picks and bans can become pretty volatile pretty quickly. I think Yamoja has been let through a couple times. Persephone's been let through a couple times because of some of these setups. But overall, I would expect to see those two start to see more prioritization in the picks and bans moving forward, because they've both proven to be pretty hard to handle when they go through.
Yeah, can't believe we ever get to see Yamoja play right now. One of the best gods in the game. It's so much control. There are certainly options to slow her down, but it feels like you're just playing Smite on hard mode when she's permitted through. So far, these bans fairly standard. The Hercules, Yamoja, Olarun, the Cthulhu, the Persephone. Amir has found a way to sneak in, but I think that is something we've seen these support players go to a bit more, even without much success. Do you like the Amir ban, even with its popularity?
I do, because Jake has really leaned on this pick. And with Freya locked in already for Renegades, I'm thinking immediately Fafnir for Jake, because when he can't get the Ymir, it's been a lot of Fafnir. And I think that eUnited going after Jake's god pool a little bit in picks and bans does make sense to me. It's a guy that really wants to play his own style of stuff and has been pretty, you know, content sitting with Ymir, Fafnir, Xing Chen for the vast majority of the season. Those are the gods that at least come to mind for me. I think that eUnited trying to get a game plan to take out Jake in something he's comfortable on makes a lot of sense to me.
Wow, Aphrodite Achilles prioritized early. Even with the Amaterasu out there, largely thought of as one of the strongest picks you can get, they also elected not to prioritize any kind of mage ADC with Olarun banned and Freya picked. I mean, you're thinking Soul's the next best option, so maybe you don't have to rush to grab that one. But Renegades could be in a strong spot. They've already got Freya, who could be your hyper carry, Thor to control that mid-game. As soon as he hits level 5, even he can start coming online. And this next pick, be surprised if it wasn't for the solo lane here, but do you think eUnited should have gone for the Alma earlier? Do you like this Aphrodite Achilles?
I like the Afro Achilles because there are 3 different people that can play the Achilles on eUnited. We know that Variety can play it, and Scream's been playing a lot in jungle. You imagine that Snoopy could probably flex it into support, so that flexibility is really important. I like, speaking of flexibility, what Renegades have done, though, with their draft, and now picking up this Thor. You know that Solo Patrol loves this selection, and Lasbrad usually doesn't play it. So I would assume almost that this is Thor in the solo lane for Renegades, and that they're setting SOT up to be this early rotate god out of the solo lane that can try and put some extra pressure on this Aphrodite.
Well, let's see if eUnited are wise to it. We should be able to tell by these bans if they're targeted towards jungle or solo, if they have a sense on where this Thor might be going. Cabrakan is going to round out this draft for eUnited, and for now, it does make some sense. You know, Freya might be a little bit reliant on the ultimate to get back out of that, if the Cabrakan can lock her in and it can give you some pressure depending on where it's played. But now we're seeing eUnited banning away the tier. Perhaps they're not completely sold that this Thor is going over to the short lane.
Or I think that's more likely that they're actually continuing to attack Jake's god pool in support. Yeah, don't forget that that's where Renegades likes to put that tier more often than not, straight back to the Horus. So I think it is a bunch of focus onto what Jake is going to play, but I'm surprised that it isn't a Fafnir ban among those, because Fafnir looks fantastic so far with Renegades' draft of 2 auto attackers in the Freya and the Neith. I like Renegades bans a lot. Rom has been Guy J's most consistent ADC pick. Cupid is another one that he's gone to, and if you are thinking Fafnir, Cupid is a really big thorn in his side. So I think that those are 2 pretty smart bans here for Renegades, but I'm looking for what eUnited is ready for or going to pick if that is going to be a Fafnir for Jake.
Well, it's the Jingwei coming in now, so they know for sure what the Hunter locked in for eUnited is going to be. Now Renegades will come over and start to look for some clarity in where this draft is going, because up until now, they've had some flexibility. It looks like eUnited are pretty confident in banning away some of these support picks and limiting a bit of what Jake can do, but as you mentioned, this Fafnir certainly still available for him, but it looks like it'll be the Sobek. Interesting, because this could still be going over to solo. I mean, we don't see a whole lot of Sobek support nowadays, I feel like, so things still a little bit up in the air.
And not a pick that I think that really dominates Kabrakan. I mean, it still gets messed up by those walls. Erlong Shen tells me that it'll be Erlong jungle, Thor solo, kind of like what I was expecting, and it will be Sobek support. I think the main reason we see Sobek here for Jake is because it has an easy interrupt on those tremors. You can either use the pluck or the tail whip in order to stop those tremors from happening, and that's especially important if that's Kabrakan support for getting lane pressure, because if this Kabrakan just has a matchup where he can walk in and just start tremoring the whole wave, you get such instant lane pressure that you kind of need something that can interrupt it early on, and Sobek can do that.
And now the Wheelish comes in, so maybe not a ton of synergy on the own comp, perhaps relying on this Jingwei for knockups there, but could potentially even get some punishments off Renegades comp. I'm thinking about this Neath in particular, but I think a Wheelish could be particularly strong, even if there aren't a ton of setup. How do you feel about a Wheelish's strength just overall?
She got a lot of buffs recently, and I think it did make her a lot better. It brought a lot more consistency to the kit. She doesn't have nearly as many mana problems as she did earlier on, which was a big deal for her, especially when Talaria got nerfed. I agree that it looks a little bit limited here in this eUnited draft, and we saw Sam play it in a pretty limited capacity in a limited draft on his side and did not see a whole lot of success with it. But I do think that Scream has one of the best Awilixes in North America as far as NA junglers go. This was a comfort pick for him quite a while ago, so if he can return to form on that, I think it could be a very, very strong pick here for eUnited.
We'll get a chance to see exactly what Renegades has under the hood up against eUnited for game number 1.
Well, it is time. One final team in the SPL winless, and that is eUnited Renegades. Looking to add their second. It is Dolson and Mifflin on the call. Doug working the camera for us for our first set to round out this week here on Sunday. Mifflin, all things considered, close matchup here between the Renegades and eUnited. I want to zoom in, though, on this long lane, I think. Just because of Jake, he has this kind of all-out aggression, fun-to-watch type of play style. I'm wondering how that affects the mentality, maybe, of Snoopy and Guy J, a long lane that's still kind of learning and getting their feet underneath them here at the SPL level.
I mean, it can be hard to deal with, especially considering you are right. These guys shouldn't be overly comfortable with each other just yet. But because Jake falls down to this Sobek pick, sure, it brings a certain degree of aggression. But usually you match it up with gods like Ho Yi or On Her or Cupid that can help you out with that early game where at level 2, if you get a pluck, it might just result in a kill. Sure, Freya's got decent damage potential and the slow lockdown is certainly there. But she doesn't have that same form of follow-up CC that I think Jake's really going to be relegated more towards this peel role than he is going to be that traditional aggression that we're used to seeing from him.
This is what we are used to seeing as far as strategy goes. Snoopy blinks forward to try to get a little extra XP and reaches level 2 first, but Jake will have that blink a little bit longer. Look at the damage Barracuda takes, though. Jake has to leave off to the other side, and now 100 HP left on this Jingwei. So interesting micro strategy decisions early on here. Miff puts Barracuda a little bit further behind.
I like the playstyle. I mean, even right there, we saw that Jake was able to move up just a little bit to prevent Kaijay from following up off of that Tremors immediately. Yep. He got the knock-up afterward, but had he been allowed to just move up straight up, land some auto attacks while Barracuda was stuck there, very easily would have resulted in First Blood. But because of Jake's positioning, it forces him to play it a little bit further back, and then Jake rotates through the jungle for a safe path out. That's a good way to mitigate loss from Renegades.
I do wonder if that blink now disparity maybe comes out to play at some point there in the long lane. Jake still has his. Snoopy, of course, using it at the onset of that lane. SOT on the Thor this time around, going up against Variety on this Achilles. The Achilles has started to find a lot of success here at the SPA level. I believe it was a 75% win rate is what we saw in the pick ban phase. Thor has been played in the jungle traditionally and more recently than not. Speaking of junglers, Scream is going to make his way in onto Lasbra. Kiss connects for a stun, but the damage, it turns around. Venenu puts down Scream for first blood here, and this one, it's a double for the mid lane Neath, and Renegades are off to the races.
That's tough for eUnited, man. They move up with the aggression. They had a plan. eUnited has deceptively strong early game, and you match that with Aphrodite for that level of sustain, but unfortunately for them, you were talking about Erlang Shen earlier, my man deals damage. He has damage and lockdown in spades, especially in this early game phase. We saw there he was able to damage completely through the healing from the birds. It's just a bit of an overstep from eUnited, a little bit overconfident in their 2v2.
That's a dream start now for the Renegades. You get Venenu up to level 4, you're going to get that World Weaver online just a little bit earlier. Now Lasbra over onto Variety. There's the knock-up, and SOT has gotten a kill. Lasbra, the journeyman, moves from the mid lane over to solo, and now SOT is on the board as well.
Life's looking really rough for eUnited. This is a draft that you kind of need to have at least one lane winning out on. When you have Aphrodite in mid, you're most likely going to be seeding pressure, especially considering she's laning up against that Neath. So you want your side lanes to be able to perform pretty well. Having a Willix in the jungle, sure, she's got some early game damage, which should mitigate some of that losses in mid. But you really need to have that bastion, that lane that you can return to as a jungler that you say, okay, if I go there, I'll at least be able to help him out, get some pressure, maybe return a kill. But right now, it's really only the duo lane for eUnited that's remained even.
And somewhat even as it is, a freeze there for Barracuda is going to keep this wave right where it's at, and not much action flourishing just yet. Might be more. Scream has made his way over to the long lane, dashes in, stunned down, immediate beads by Barracuda. Great peel there. Scream looking for a gank. Remember, he looked for one early on in the game, invaded on the Renegade side of the map, now makes his way over to the long lane. No kills for eUnited yet.
He knows that he has to get involved early on. He needs to make up that deficit that's already starting to establish for the Renegades, so he's trying to do whatever he can on the map.
No! My God! This man cannot catch a break. 2 kills now for Scream. Venenu hitting that level 5 mark. I mentioned now level 6, so he had it for a moment, but the World Weaver impacting the map all over the place. Lasbra now picks up his first kill after 3 assists early in this game. Scream has now fallen 2 levels behind Mifflin, 4 minutes in.
2 levels behind on an early game god like a Willix, that is tough. And now he's going to make a hard decision as a jungler. Do I dedicate all this time now to just farming up? He's going to have to farm pretty selfishly if he wants to catch up. Or do I need to continually try and find pressure in these lanes so that someone stays afloat? It's really hard to make that decision, especially if Lazarus pressuring your jungle.
Well, Lasbra does not have the 9 turns blessing, but he does have the body block on Variety's ultimate knock-up. Gravity surge back from Scream, so finally one pulled back here for eUnited. Scream won't chase any further. Snoopy is hanging around to the side. Venenu, no World Weaver, so true 2v1 here in the solo lane. Should any more come of it, SOT walks in, Snoopy close by. Ultimate for Kabrakan is awaiting if need be, and now Snoopy grabs a kill for eUnited, a couple back for the red side.
That's good for them, man. SOT thought he had the kill, threw the hammer, immediately realized, oh god, Snoopy's here, I'm gonna have to teleport. Was able to avoid the stun, but not avoid his death. I like the playstyle, though. Renegades are trying to keep this aggression up constantly. Just keep your eye on where Lazarus is. He's always looking to fight, despite what side of the jungle he's on.
He's going to taunt Snoopy right back in. The action continues here. 2v1. Good healing there. World Weaver blocked by Variety. So Snoopy lives to fight another day. But the skirmish is continuing. Miff, we got 7 kills on the board. Almost 6 minutes into this one. These two teams fighting tooth and nail for early game advantages. When it's all said and done, Renegades pulled out to an early 1K or so lead. eUnited have now pulled a couple back. All things even, aside from 300 or so gold. But there's a 700 XP differential. That one's over for eUnited. It's not often, Miff, you see gold for one side, XP for the other, but that's what we've got here.
You don't, and that was a huge swing for Scream in the jungle being able to return the kill into Lazra. He actually ticked over to level 7 before Lazra did, so a lot of those early game woes have already been alleviated. He can go back and he doesn't have to think about too much whether or not he's sacrificing farm for ganks. He can return his mindset to, I want to gank out duo lane, I want to make sure Barracuda doesn't get off to a strong start, pressure out mid. Ven's a very easy gank target for a Wheelix on this Neath. There's so much that Scream's going to be able to do now that he's not 3 levels down.
Lasbra won't get the root onto Snoopy, will get the knock-up, trembles through, 3 men collapsing onto the Kabrakan, and that's an easy kill for Lasbra. Now the 3rd of the game out of the jungle, 100% kill participation, 6 out of 6, 7 minutes in for Lasbra in the jungle. This Erlang Shen continues to find value in the recent games, Miff, when I feel like we've seen him.
He's looking really, really good. A lot of it's got to do with some recent itemization changes helping him out. The pressure mentality in junglers has really started to flourish. Right now, Thor's making a resurgence, and Erling Shen meets that style.
So Hurrywin has to pop the ultimate here. There's the taunt right back in on Hurry. These two teams, they won't stop. They keep fighting. Hurrywin trying to get away here. Snoopy back off of respawn, right back into the fight. Jake will get the kill onto Hurrywin. Snoopy is able to walk away. Now the side lanes finding some impact. Really the long lane most notably getting involved. SOT has rotated over. The execute from Variety puts him on the board. eUnited now have pulled the one back. 10 kills, 7 minutes 45 in.
But Renegades finally start to establish themselves a real lead off of all of this pressure and potentially get themselves a red buff invade as well. That's very nice. One red buff invade makes not for a lead, but now they have a Bastion to move in, continually look for this red buff. eUnited shouldn't even have the timer on it, so if Renegades group up, try and force fights there, it could open them up to a gold 3 as well. But so far, a lot of these fights have been over just about nothing, just Renegades going into eUnited's jungle camps when the buffs are down already, picking up a couple kills, or maybe overextending a little bit on the right side if you're SOT. Right now, I'm really expecting, or waiting for rather, that 10 to 12 minute mark once these teams can really start to group up and start looking at this Gold Fury.
It is chaos right now. Chaos reigns supreme on the battleground. Really haven't gotten a chance to talk much about SOT outside of the ganks that have found their way over to the right-hand side of the map. What are your thoughts kind of around this Thor here in the solo lane? Obviously, you know what he looks to do in the jungle. You hit level 5, Anvil of Dawn, immediate semi-global impact. Maybe not quite as immediate of an impact, though, when you stick him over in solo.
Normally he can rotate out a lot more easily, but in Soul Lane, especially with the items he's going for, this Soul Eater, he's going to want to stick around, stack it up a little bit before he rotates out. And if he's laning against something like an Achilles who's able to box in so well, normally Thor's going to play from a range, clear out the wave, go for some hammer poke, and then rotate out. But since Achilles, or Variety rather, has been doing such a good job of sticking to him, SOT has to stick around and sustain up because he can't rotate the mid at half health.
Half HP on the Gold Fury here. The Renegades have pulled this one out. Venenu Laz juggling the aggro there. Half HP on both of them. Big spike. Now 2.2k in the lead are the Renegades in the gold department. And I think you kind of zoom out and look at this Renegades team. The question was never around these early game skirmishes. We know Lasber was on a tear in Phase 1 out of the jungle. We've seen these type of starts. It's now transitioning this lead right into those objectives. So I think if you're a Renegades fan, obviously you're thrilled with the fact that you've built a lead, you found 7 early kills. But at least on one Fury, we're maybe seeing a little bit clearer, more immediate objective calling on the back of an early lead.
And it's looking really good. And they've already got a late game win condition just baked into their composition with Barracuda playing this Freya. I mean, it's looking good for Renegades right now.
What is not a gank ult for SOT. It is an escape ult as Scream and Variety have made their way over to solo. Hey, Awesome Jake is here, Lasber as well. Blue buff dropped down by the Renegades this time around. eUnited full-on chase here, stunned down onto Jake, but a nice wall. Oh, he's pulled on back, and Variety grabs the kill. Venenu tosses in the ult from the mid lane. Buys some damage, but not much. Jake goes down for the first time this game. Now starting to even up a little bit in the support department. Snoopy was a couple of levels behind. Now assisting on another kill there will pull back at least a 1-level differential. So you like to see that from this Cabrakan starting to get a little bit more involved. A god that we haven't seen much of here recently.
Surprised to see eUnited not decide and try and go for the Pyromancer, but if you pick up a kill on SOT, but you won't because that's a nice teleport. Clean play, and now he might lose his life.
And Lasber's going to pull him right back in. Scream has joined the fray, but SOT from range will knock him down. Can Scream reclose the gap on this Thor? Snoopy's rotating over as well. SOT is going to happy feet this one out. Stay alive. Variety 2-3-1, 2-2-1 for SOT. Venenu now rotates over towards Snoopy. I'm hesitant because I don't know just how aggressive these teams are going to get on these individual engagements. It seems for the moment that we've slowed down, and another good objective call for the Renegades picking up the Pyro.
It is, and this is exactly what it is. eUnited picked up a solo kill, or a solo pick rather, onto Awesome Jake, had the ultimate forced out of SOT, and decided to just walk past the Pyromancer. Renegades pick up 1 kill and immediately run at the nearest objective, and that's really where these leads are starting to establish. It seems like eUnited's still very hesitant to take any sort of risk, even if it is 80% favored towards them on these objectives.
Come on, SOT now proxying a wave. We'll have the Anvil of Dawn, but You're going to just drop down onto Scream. Does some good damage there. Half HP now on the Wheelix. Up and over. Variety rotating in, but he's going to be late. SOT finds a solo kill here. Variety was not there to play. Snoopy is, though. The stun is down, and now the Achilles will snag a kill. It seems that SOT is searching for these fights and executing them. Variety's been cleaning up some of the work on the back end.
Hey, SOT might have just made it out of there alive if he didn't stick around and make sure that Scream knew he got soloed with those taunts, man. I like it, though. Good mentality. It's a great way to get in your opponent's head.
Of course you do.
Scream's a young guy. He's probably feeling pretty bad about it.
Jake underneath the tier 1 tower now as the action continues. Venenu will get rid of Snoopy, and Jake will stay alive here. Hurrywind on the chase as Variety is rotated in behind Venenu here. There's the dash, looking for the stuns. Found one onto Lasbra. Jake will stay alive here. No more fighting left in the mid lane, so now Snoopy takes a tumble. A 1-level lead still remains for Jake here in this mid lane. I think you got to admire it, Mifflin, from both sides. Neither team shying away from these early game skirmishes, but I kind of like this look over at the long lane. Jing Wei absolutely not excluded from this conversation. The two players that have been kind of out of the fray early on here, a Freya, who's going to get nothing but better, and a Jing Wei you could maybe throw into that conversation as well.
But that Jing Wei is never going to meet that same level of scaling that Freya is. I mean, sure, she's got about a 1-level lead here, but that's what we're used to seeing out of Freya from the long lane. Normally, they will fall behind because the boxing potential doesn't come through until 2nd, 3rd, or 4th item. I really want GaiJ to start rotating out, start to group up in these team fights. He needs to get that rage stacked up so he can bring maximum impact into the team fight. Whereas Barracuda has been allowed to essentially free farm this entire time, hasn't got any stacking items, so he's just going to get passive more powerful as the more gold comes towards him. I think that eUnited may have missed a window where they could have addressed this Freya, especially considering they had this early game jungler inside of a Willix, but now Freya's got Beads, Aegis, and Valkyrie's Discretion, which is essentially a Beads and an Aegis.
Right, I mean, Scream looked over there once, right, but he was so far behind, so definitely a missed opportunity there from eUnited. Now has closed that gap to Scream's credit, even in the level department. And I think always the question is, you get off to these leads, yeah, you're getting a lot of kills, but how do you build on that? I think the continued conversation is for the Renegades now, that they've done a great job of looking towards the respawning objectives. 1 Pyro taken down, the early Gold Fury taken down. I wonder how pivotal to the game at large this next Primal Fury will be, because I don't imagine eUnited let this one go for free.
Well, they did let the last one go for free. They have been very hesitant to group up on these team fights, but here's the risk. If Renegades just get the gold free, small win. If they get the gold free in the team fight, they might win the game off it.
Snoopy's the one trying to fight. That's Hurrywind using his ultimate on Snoopy very early on here, and Snoopy, he's going to die nonetheless. Jake will pick up the kill there. 5v4 around this Fury. eUnited still hanging around the back. Let's clear out those pesky Cabrakan walls, but Primal Fury may be pulled once again here by the Renegades.
Look at the ultimates available to the Renegades as well. If United steps up at all, SOT can immediately use Anvil of Dawn and chase them out.
10%, now 50% reset on the Primal Fury, walking in. eUnited doing what they need to. 3-man stun, followed up by Venenu. Shell immediately popped. Here's the first big team fight of the game. Down comes SOT, and Barracuda gets involved finally to the tune of 1 kill. Scream stun down, taken down by SOT. Onto the opposite side, GaiJ has to airstrike away defensively, so you're looking at a 2-for-1. Renegades now go right back to this Fury.
Snoopy finally respawns in, but SOT's not going to let GaiJ back for free. It's very smart of him to do that because Jing Wei's just going to fly in past wherever you are, but now Variety's been left alone in the back next to a Freya.
And he has been banished. Now back to the respawn screen. SOT asserting dominance in this past team fight. Highest net worth in the game for good reason. 5-3-3 out of the solo lane on this Thor. This bruisery Thor, it just seems so difficult for United to lock down. These Anvil of Dawns get him in there, and he's still doing massive chunk damage, Myth.
Yeah, buco damage from this Thor right now. I mean, his presence is known in every single one of these team fights, and I think it's honestly pretty smart of Renegades to leave the Gold Fury up there. They realize that United are willing to fight into it so they can continually force these engagements, and I don't think we're going to make any qualms saying that Renegades came out by and large far ahead on that last skirmish, so the more times that they can force United to rotate in and make sure this objective doesn't fall, the more opportunities they're going to have to continually grow their lead without even having to expend this neutral objective.
Right, you don't get the Fury, but you look at the now ballooning gold deficit here. I mean, it was around 2K just walking into that skirmish. And even a 2-for-1, you see that little peak there, you know, about a minute or so ago. So that's big from the Renegades to push that advantage on the back of a couple of kills. Might get wider here for eUnited. As the Primal Fury started up, looks like a trade out for the Pyromancer, so eUnited at least making a play on the opposite side of the map. And I think that's what you got to do here, make a play somewhere. Watch out for SOT, though. He's taken to the skies. Not sure where he'll land. Down right back to the mid lane. Stun over onto Snoopy, rooted down, plucked back. Kabrakin having a real tough time. Saved for the moment, and Scream! He's gotten the kill. Jake on the chase. Delete Snoopy on the back end of the big Sobek ultimate. 1-for-1 trade. Double stun, double tap. SOT follows the hammer in. Spins to win. Down goes Scream. Variety looking for the execute over onto Jake.
Nice vanish
from Barracuda. The Freya's back in the fray. A double kill for SOT as Hurrywind falls down. Variety has to use the ultimate to get out. There's Valkyrie's discretion, and Barracuda right back in the kill column.
Man, SOT is controlling these team fights. The walls are on point. The chasing on point. This is toxic, SOT. You're not allowed to do that to the new guy. That's Guy J. He hasn't been here very long. But I guess SOT has earned it just because he is really doing the majority of the damage on his team. He's finding all the CC. He's setting up the follow-up damage. His dunks have been clean. I mean, this guy's doing so much on this Thor solo. He's the real issue of the team, and that's hard to say 18 minutes in when you also have a Freya on your squad.
All right, 1.4K ahead of Venenu, who's found very consistent damage as well. This ability-based Neath has found success for Radiance, really, and, you know, Venenu definitely one. Caters to some unconventional mid picks that we've seen here in the past, so love seeing him pick up the Neath and find good value from it. And I guess that kind of goes back to the conversation, Miff, when I was bringing up, and then I'm sure a fight broke out that we weren't able to finish the thought, on how this Thor is able to impact the game differently from the solo lane versus out of the jungle. And I guess it's maybe to your point, if you just survive this laning phase, once these big skirmishy fights start, you're right where you want to be.
And all of a sudden, he's playing a much different playstyle. Thor in the jungle likely would have had Brawler's Beatstick, Hydras, or Heartseeker, something along those lines. He would have been dealing a lot more damage. But SOT has gone this much more bruiser-centric build where he really hasn't even looked to sacrifice that much damage because the XP lead he's built. He's able to solo out whoever he wants and be incredibly tanky to whoever he's standing in front of.
What a wall. Guy J has to airstrike away here. SOT does not have his ultimate, but Venenu sure does. He'll send in the World Weaver. The final tap onto Guy J. Venenu says thank you very much to SOT. And look at this. Renegades grouping up on the opposite side of the map to push down the Tier 1 tower over in the solo lane. This has been that shot calling again. I'll harp on it. The Renegades feel like they've been missing up to this point, and they are executing flawlessly here 20 minutes in.
This is such a good play. Keeping SOT on the opposite side of the map, obviously he can teleport in if anything goes wrong on the right side, but also being a level 19 tank Thor, no one's going to be able to deal with them. They might be able to stop his push, but they're certainly not 1v1ing this guy, so he is the safest person to send over to the other side of the map. And it seems like eUnited recognized that immediately and decide not to send anyone over besides Hurry.
United are going to need to steal this one away. Not able to do so, though. Variety taken down to half HP. Who gets the kill here? This time it's Lasbra. Renegades peel away the Fire Giant 21 minutes in. There's an open Phoenix on the right-hand side. Good eyes by Doug there. SOT was maybe looking to re-engage on a fight, just spotting out some enemies here. Looks like full-on siege on the right-hand side.
And the siege potential isn't as good as you'd hope for from the Renegades. Normally Freya would be a little bit weaker, but since you have Ven on this Neath, the damage towards the Phoenix itself should be pretty strong. It's really up to Awesome Jake to find something to disrupt the backline, pull someone in. Renegades are looking to kill before they take the Phoenix.
Snoopy blinks forward, gets the stun down onto Barracuda, and a good wall is going to keep Barra right where he is, but I don't know if you want to lock a Freya within attack range of you. Snoopy goes down. 1-5-3 now on the Kabrak, and he's found these engagements. United haven't quite been able to turn around on many of them, at least since the early game. So right side Phoenix is gone. Still 2 towers over in the long lane. But maybe this is the right call here from the Renegades. Just send everyone mid. It worked on the right-hand side.
And now they're fighting into a enemy disparity, right? There's only 4 people left for eUnited to defend, and the majority of the ultimates for Renegades are already coming back up.
Jake, 3-man knock-up. SOT stuns down on a Scream, immediately beads out, though, so the eUnited will live to fight another day. Another double stun from SOT, and all he needed to do there was buy space. The rest of the Renegades delete the mid lane Phoenix. This is methodical from RNG. They're going to make their way over to the long lane now. Oni Fury spawning up in 5 seconds. A lot of gold and a lot of map pressure still somehow to be found for the Renegades.
But look at this ambush attempt being set up by SOT, looking for the wall, wasn't quite able to line it up himself. eUnited are going for a Hail Mary play here with this chase.
Lasbro locked in. He's able to burn the beads and get himself out alive here. SOT, always on the front line, will find the stun way away. Onto GuyJ here. Full 5v5 fight, but 2 of the 3 upgraded shells for eUnited are down, so mitigating Venenu and Barracuda is going to be a little bit extra difficult now for eUnited. They're actually going to pull out the Oni Fury. They're going to do some good damage onto it. SOT uses the Anvil of Dawn, maybe looking for a grouped up backline of eUnited here. Down he goes. Scream deleted from the fight. First kill in this one. Renegades now keep that foot on the gas as Lasbro will pick up a kill onto GuyJ. Snoopy low. Venenu rampaging everyone from the Renegades, getting in the kill column on this one. Watch out for the Titan as well. Fire minions pouring into the eUnited base. Renegades just need to continue to buy time here. Variety will get knocked up, ults away, stays alive for a second, but SOT, Lasbro there on the chase, and the eUnited base, Mifflin might be forfeit.
Yeah, I mean, just take a peek at where Ven's at. You guys go ahead and chase your kills, whatever, fix your KDs, whatever you want to do. I'm going to go end the game. Barra, you with me? Yes. The Titan's already at 50%. Next respawns in the next 10 seconds. If this guy dies as well, Hurry Win's not going to be available for the defense. Yeah, we can call it game there.
Let's go, Snoopy!
Look a little bit strange on that chase. I don't understand what they're looking for there. Even if they do wipe the enemy team, they're not able to return anything.
Well, there is a small skirmish here by the Titan, but it's at 25% HP. Scream gets the kill over onto Venenu. Lasbro makes his way back into the Titan room. Does he have enough damage to take it out alone? He sure does. Renegades in 24 minutes. And convincing is an understatement here, fashion for Renegades. What a way for them to start off this set.
24 minutes, 26 kills, and that's just Renegades. 8 on the other side for eUnited. That might have been one of the fastest-paced SPL games we've ever seen, and it seemed like it was Renegades setting the pace and eUnited just kind of getting dragged down into it.
There's like that small moment, I think, in the late, early, fringing on mid where eUnited fight back in. Scream is able to get back to even, find a few kills there, but then it's these clean, continued objective calls, I think, from Renegades that just pulls them ahead in this one, and they did not look back. My God, it was a blowout by the end of this one. Game number 1 in the books. Renegades, they strike first. Finch and Aggro will tell us how they got there.
Thanks, Dolson and Miff. Yeah, that was a pretty dominant game for Renegades over eUnited, and they had all this map control, Solar Troll on the Thor, Venenu on this Neath. It gave them the ability to always have a slight numbers advantage, but that was only half of it. Aggro, it also kind of felt like eUnited were making some odd decisions at times. Scream struggled a bit in the early game, as did Whirlwind. What did you see here in this game?
Yeah, eUnited just are identityless right now, is what I would say. They just cannot find a way in figure out how they want to play these early games. I mean, the level 3 fight between the Willix Aphrodite up against Neath Erlong Shen, I feel like that's pretty favored unless you could absolutely one-shot someone with that blink in, and both Hurry and Scream ended up going on different targets, it felt like. So not a good performance from eUnited by any stretch. But I want to focus on how good Renegades looked. Solar Troll had another fantastic performance on this Thor. Mechanically, always very impressive on this god. Mifflin might like to see him dying by standing over Scream's body. Personally, that's exactly the opposite of what I think we should be seeing from Solar Troll. That's been the worry about him. Is he taking it as seriously as he can? Is he locked in? Is he really just doing everything to win at 100%? That kind of stuff does concern me a little bit. Obviously, I don't want to see that, but overall, he was fantastic on this Thor. Lasbro does what Lasbro does whenever he gets a lead, which is push it really, really efficiently. And Renegades as a team just looked unstoppable. I also thought Ven had a fantastic game underneath.
He did, and I think Vin has looked better in this Phase 2 for Renegades, and that's been a big part of how they've improved, because Lasbra has always been a really strong player for them, not maybe 100% consistent, but it's because they put a lot on his plate in terms of shouldering the load. So when Venenu is able to step up a bit more, when SOT gets picks like this Thor, and he can help set some of the pace as well, I feel like that really allows for Lasbra to really thrive for this Renegades team. And then obviously Barracuda, who I think has been a shining spot for this team even in their struggles. If you give him something like Freya, then of course he's going to have a great game. That's easy mode for Barra. He's used to having to play way harder than that.
Yeah, he had a great game, no doubt about that on the Freya. I don't think he's going to see that again in this set. I just think the Oilix pick wasn't very good by eUnited. I think that was a little bit too narrow in its applications. I think Guy J on the Jingwei was unable to really have any impact, and whether that's because the whole team fell behind too early or that isn't the right pick for him, we'll have to kind of wait and see. But eUnited have to completely scrap their plan going into the set probably, or at least their Game 1 plan, and have the next thing ready to go, because Game 1 I don't think is a simple, oh, if we just make this change here, that change there, then we'll win. I think it was a little bit more drastic than that.
Well, we're moving to the Pixie Banter Game 2 aggro. I know the strategy obviously needs to change for eUnited. Do they need to change off of all these bans against Awesome Jake? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't seem as if being put on the Sobek really hurt them all that much. Are they focusing on the wrong area, or do they need to keep that up and maybe even take away the Sobek?
Could be. I don't think that there's any world in which you can end up banning Sobek. I do like keeping Jake off of things like Ymir and Horus. But overall, that's maybe better saved for the second phase. I think the opening phase, giving up this early pressure in the Freya and how much fight potential that has. Barra goes on dying in that game, doesn't have any real pressure on him. I think that unless you can come up with a better plan to attack the Freya, then you've got to just make a switch up.
Make sure that you take that out of there. So far, though, these bans looking pretty normal. Hercules and Persephone banned. We're keeping our eyes on whether or not we see Renegades, or rather eUnited, continue to try and take that eye towards Awesome Jake. The Emoji ban also standard. It's eUnited that we're kind of keeping that closer look on. And if they were to kind of move away from banning it and then take away things like that Freya, do you expect to see maybe Renegades make some changes to where they're taking their drafts, try and get something earlier for Awesome Jake, or just kind of keep on going with that same pace since they won the first game?
Well, the big thing is that eUnited was willing to trade the Freya for the Afro, and that's the other priority pick that got let through for both of these teams. When you check out the bans against both of them, Aphrodite in the top 3 for both sides. So, and both mid laners have shown their propensity to playing that pick. So now with Renegades banning Olorun, eUnited kind of has to either give up Freya or Afro or Nem or some sort of combination therein. I think banning the Freya does make the most sense. Now you leave open Aphrodite, Nemesis, Amaterasu. Renegade's going to go back to the Thor, and when SOT has a hot hand on this pick, I think that does make sense. But now if you're United, you can get some pretty good picks here. I mean, Nem Afro is a nasty, nasty combo that is really, really hard to stop in the mid game.
Is that all?
And an upgrade for Whirlwind and Scream would be well appreciated after that first game where they had some struggles. But so far, it looks like we're looking at the Achilles. You covered this back in the picks and bans for game number 1, though. This is a great flex pick. Could potentially be played by Scream or Variety, or maybe even handed over to Snoopy. And they're going to take the ROM, going to take an opportunity to try and strip some of those picks away from Guy. But that does still mean, or to make sure that Guy gets his pick, but that does still mean now that Renegades get the benefit of all those great picks you talked about. The Nemesis, the Ama, the Afro, all still available.
They could pretty easily go with a couple of those picks right here, but Cupid early against 2 picks that already can struggle against that Fields of Love does make some sense, though I like Rom's matchup against Cupid an awful lot better than say, Jingwei's, like Guy J had last time around, so I don't think this is a horrible pick if you're on a United side to see Barracuda or Venenu lock in. Ben has played at mid a decent amount. Ymir as well. I just don't feel like Renegades are a team that is going to prioritize giving that Thor over to Lasbra, even if it means getting Amaterasu for solo control. I feel like that's pretty hard locked into that solo lane.
Very likely no need to look for another solo laner for Renegades. Then perhaps eUnited can make the pick. But instead, it'll be the Merlin here in the middle lane. So a little bit of a step away from maybe what we would normally expect as some of those top picks. But kind of as you were alluding to, when SOT is playing this well on Thor, I'm not taking that away from him. We know how reliant Guy seems on the ROM. His production has gone up on that pick. So prioritize it too. Even though these might not be what we normally see from the picks and bans, it makes a ton of sense for these teams. eUnited now going to ban away the Soul. Perhaps worried there was a double basic attack composition in the cards here for Renegades.
Smart ban, I think, by United. That's a pick that Barracuda has gone to an awful lot, so it's pretty much a free ban. I think I would still ban Nem in this slot if I were United, if we're not planning on picking it. If we are planning on picking it, then obviously we'd leave it open in this spot. But I do think it's good enough against what we have already, and Nem is just pretty strong in general, that would be the direction that I would want to go with the ban. But Robin tells me they either aren't that concerned with the Nemesis or are planning on picking it up themselves.
Khepri banned by Renegade, so they're taking a bit of a look towards Snoopy and trying to limit what he might be able to play, and that continues with banning away this Kuzenbo. And you and I were talking backstage. You know, I felt as though maybe we hadn't seen quite enough from Snoopy here, but I know you felt he's had a strong phase here so far. What do you think we might see here from Snoopy for eUnited as that gets answered? It'll be this Sobek.
Could be, though that could be Sobek solo and Scream playing the Achilles jungle, and Variety is kind of known to play that. I do think Snoopy has had a bad overall phase so far. I just think that their last set up against Obey earlier on this week was Snoopy's best performance in support, which is what you're hoping to see as the player gets more and more comfortable in that role. So I think it does make some sense for Renegades to keep banning those out. I also think that it's just the easiest one to, you don't know if that Achilles is going to go jungle or solo. You could probably bet that it's least likely to go to support. So if we ban supports, that's the value that we get the most out of. It's just the kind of hedging your bets there for Renegades more than trying to take a specific pick away from them.
Looks like it'll be the Thoth here for Renegades. Got to imagine that goes to Venenu. The Pele comes through as well, which is something that Lasbra has loved to play, so no surprise to see this locked in, which means yet again, very likely to be that Thor over in solo, as we predicted with that Amir going to the support spot. And we're in some kind of crazy upside-down world, I suppose, where Nemesis gets 10th picked overall, but if you're United, I can't imagine you're feeling too bad about it.
No, definitely not, but that leaves me with the question of, if this is a crazy upside-down world, should I say that I think eUnited's going to win when I actually think it's going to be Renegades, or should I stick? I don't know the rules of the universe that we're in anymore, but overall, I think that Renegades have come away with a ton of different comfort picks. This is like, if each player could pick a god to play blind, they might end up with these fives. So I think the Renegades are probably very happy with their draft.
I can't imagine they wouldn't be. They've got all the momentum in the set right now and a ton of really strong picks, but we take a look at what eUnited have. Their ability to either burst a single target or, even if it's not all the way done, clean it up is there. They've got the execute, they've got the snipes from this ROM. Obviously, the Nemesis lowered this kill threshold. I feel as though Renegade's got to be careful that they're not going to get picked off by this eUnited draft.
I think that's fair. I think if this were game one, I would say eUnited came away with a fantastic draft as well, and this is going to be a really even game. I think that it's just hard for me to take away the actual performance on the battlefield from what eUnited is doing right now, and that's why I have to give the edge to Renegades. But I think this is eUnited's best draft in some time.
If they're going to make it work, then it'll have to be here. eUnited without a win, looking to see if they can get one in this set.
Well, I'm going to echo what Aggro said, I think, Mifflin, in that eUnited have drafted themselves a very strong composition. You look at Scream on the Nemesis now, you're going to snag that one 10th overall. That's wild to me. Hurrywind on Merlin, something that can output massive damage. But the interesting factor, I mean, if you're starting to, if we're giving out superlatives, the most interesting and maybe fun to watch team award, I think, has to go to the Renegades.
It really does, man. These guys were fighting last game over things that didn't exist. They grouped up on a dead Gold Fury and took 3 team fights back-to-back, and then walked to the enemy red buff that was also down and took 3 team fights back-to-back. It seems like Renegades are trying to send a message that they're just better. And honestly, with the performance that I saw last game, with the taunts coming through, with the energy that the whole squad was bringing, it seems like they're looking good and feeling good.
Venenu over here on this Thoth, so this will be a lot of fun to watch here, Mifflin. Where do you think this god stands in the current mid lane pool? I mean, we have seen some variety, Admittedly, Thoth hasn't been one that has come out all that often.
I think Thoth is an interesting pick. Yeah, you like that variety pun? Yeah, that was pretty good. I think Thoth is an interesting pick because he brings a lot of the strengths that are exemplified by gods like Yanis or like Persephone, who are able to damage you from a range and then still play incredibly safe. They have these huge team fight ultimates that can completely change the face of a fight if it lands on a priority target. I think Thoth's main issue is that he is so incredibly execution focused. He's one of the hardest mages to play in the game because none of his abilities are easy to land, at least not at max range, which is where you want to hit him if you're playing at the most efficient level. But with the setup on the team, with Renegades having awesome Jake on this Ymir, even just a wall should be enough setup for Ven to find these huge ultimates. Or if Barracuda gets a Fields of Love, he might be able to line up a collateral. I think they've really drafted a composition that should be able to exemplify the strengths of Thoth.
Right, and kind of the opposite, where it seemed like on the Neath in Game 1, they were using that World Weaver to kind of build up the play style that they wanted to from some of the other lanes. Now Thoth having to be a little bit more involved maybe immediately in team fights. Not that Venani wasn't in Game 1, but you can't just send out Venani, or you can't send out Thoth abilities across the entire map, as fun as that might be. SOT, we saw in Game number 1, though, the store as massive as SOT was by the end of the game. It was the early game, right here, where we're seeing Variety find some pressure again. It was at least the early game where SOT had a little bit of trouble. It's one pluck over on the Barracuda, but he'll be able to make his way away from the engagement here, unless J continues to move forward. It's a one-level lead now. Nice stun there from Jake. Hey, pressure in the solo lane, exacerbated by Variety, but now Lasbra has returned. Awesome Jake goes down to Scream. There's still chaos. It's Game 2. Nothing's changed. 1 or 2 for none so far for eUnited as they've got off to a perfect start.
Variety sticking around there to make sure that he was able to hit the wave to tick over to level 4 and then potentially win the 1v1 against Lasbra. Awesome. Soloing out SOT. Awesome. Finding damage on the other side of the map and picking up another kill for your team. Fantastic. eUnited are looking a lot better in Game 2. Sure, we're only 2.5 minutes in, but they've started to establish a 1,000 gold lead. Anything's looking better than Game 1. So I'm proud of them from here, and they've got a team comp that should be able to transition incredibly well into the team fight phase. Nemesis, one of the best late game hybrid carries. Merlin, one of the highest damage potential mages in the game. And then Snoopy on this Sobek is going to be able to play this peel role incredibly well. I think eUnited now can maybe try and slow down the pace if they want to, make sure that Renegades aren't able to get off to that same aggressive strategy as last time.
Well played there from Variety on the first blood. Double stun from SOT. Will it save his life? And not this time. One more shot. No! Oh, the tower gets it, though. Variety stays alive. Yeah, there's a death there, but nobody from the Renegades will have that one. I guess SOT gets the assist. I actually did not know that mechanic was the way it was. SOT now in the assist column at least, but Variety gets some help from Scream, and Scream now has a couple of kills.
Man, SOT is getting manhandled right now in the short lane. Probably Variety's a little bit upset about all the taunting that came through in Game 1, and that's forced Lasbra to really maintain his focus on that solo side of the map. I'm sure that this Pele would have a much better time, a much easier time trying to gank out Duo. That seems to be Lasbra's strategy when he takes this god, but because SOT is continually falling, he has to go over there to at least maintain his tower or make sure that farm isn't going to nobody. So eUnited, Variety, doing a fantastic job of not only controlling his own lane, but forcing the enemy jungler to recognize him.
Right, and really what we're seeing here is, I think, the potential that eUnited had from Game 1, they're actually taking advantage of here in Game 2. I mean, the SOT was taken low a few times, they ganked them, but they weren't able to eUnited weren't able to cleanly get out with the kills. This time, they're finally putting this clean pressure onto SOT, getting the kills and not giving up anything in exchange. Slowing down Lasbra, if nothing else that eUnited could have done, is at least a great start here for them. And then you start to look towards some of that long lane pressure as well. A little bit of what we're seeing here. Snoopy is going to walk in towards the purple buff, and hey, he'll steal that one away. So eUnited putting some pressure over on the long lane as well, where Barracuda was left unchecked in Game number 1, and the Freya eventually ran wild.
Man, Snoopy walked up and took it with Sickening Strike, through a Fields of Love, through Jake's Freeze. It didn't matter what Renegades... Yeah, it's tough. You gotta stop with the puns, Dave. I'm already feeling sick, man. I like this style from eUnited. They've said, okay, Game 1, we got absolutely pressured out. Game 2, what's the only way to beat pressure? Not to quote aggro again, but it's more pressure, and they're doing it phenomenally despite having a relatively low-pressure jungle pick inside of this Nemesis.
Nice pluck onto Jake. We'll see if GaiJ can follow up with enough damage. Going to be a nice chunk here from Snoopy on the back end of it. GaiJ has his ultimate as well. 1, no good. 2, that one's good. 3, hits the mark. GaiJ picks up the kill, and they just sort of walk at Jake. I guess that's the downfall of this Ymir. SOT up to the sky. He'll be able to disengage or re-engage on the fight. Lazarus gotten a kill on a Snoopy elsewhere. Oh, the read from Variety. Down goes SOT. And Variety continuing to put pressure over in the solo lane.
That may have been the single most mechanically impressive play I've seen all year.
My man read it.
He had to just guess or read, Yomi, whatever you want to call it. He did it, but SOT had a plan. He dunked down knowing that he's going to be in that ult range, and he just got outplayed.
Mifflin, what is going on, dude? This is too much. It's too much. We have 7 kills already again, 6.5 minutes in. We're on the same pace as we did from game number 1. Now Scream was looking over towards the red buff side. He'll get taken down here. We didn't quite get to see what happened a few moments ago, but Lasbra got a kill earlier on, a few seconds ago. So early we said, Lasbra hasn't found nearly as much pressure as he did in game 1. Now the Pele has struck for a couple of kills. The largest discrepancy here, solo lane's got that 1 level difference, but Snoopy has really found his footing here, pulling a 2-level lead over Awesome Jake.
And that 2 levels almost coming single-handedly off of all these purple buff invades, all the farm he's been soaking up in that long lane. eUnited are matching the pace that Renegades brought last game, but this time they're actually establishing a pretty large lead. Renegades had the kill lead in game 1, but it was still maintaining about 1,000 experience, 1,000 gold. But now eUnited are pulling 2,500 gold, 2,500 experience, 7 minutes in. That's a way bigger deal than really anything we saw that early on for Renegades in game 1.
And you rewind the clock a few minutes, just kind of maybe touch on SOT and his mentality coming into this game as eUnited is going to pull out the Gold Fury. Just a quick look at the Renegades, no one really close by. So eUnited will knock down the Gold Fury. But SOT, you think he's got to be riding hot after game 1. So the decision to then re-dunk back down onto Variety and try to turn around that damage, I mean, he nearly did. But, I think that gives you a look at, all right, this guy's feeling himself a little bit after what he was able to do in game 1.
Yeah, he's got to be. I mean, dude was throwing out laugh spams and taunt spams on corpses. He's got to be feeling himself, and unfortunately for him, it only seems like it's fueled Variety. He only cares now to shut down the young player, SOT. I like this really redefining mentality from eUnited. A lot of teams would have very easily been shut down mentally by getting blown out as hard as they did in game 1, but it seems like they've already readjusted, come back in, and they're looking to find a dub by making even more proactive plays than we saw in game 1. These guys are looking like a better team despite getting absolutely decimated.
Good ward coverage there from eUnited. It's going to spot out Lasbra on his way, maybe looking over for a gank into the solo lane. I guess maybe the silver lining here for the Renegades, and SOT now 0-3-1. Granted, got off to a fantastic start because Lasbra returned to the solo lane a couple of times. It was really in that mid-game where this Thor started to hit that stride when the grouped up targets started to clump a little bit more. So there is still time. There is this turnaround potential. Only 1 level behind is SOT, but won't have that same maybe early spike with the Soul Eater just yet. Has to go BOV just to stay alive a little bit longer. Things are looking worse for wear, though. I think over in this long lane, you look at another purple buff invade gone right for eUnited, and now Lasbra takes some damage from the execute. Scream claps him down. eUnited pull another kill away from Renegades as Lasbra a bit too deep in the eUnited side of the jungle.
Man, and it's not just doom and gloom on the solo side of the map if you're a Renegades fan. It's also doom and gloom over in the duo side of the map because we're looking at a 2-level disparity for Snoopy, and it seems like SOT might just lose his life as well. Anvil Dawn should get him out of there alive, insofar as he doesn't decide to dunk down again and test Variety.
He's going to farm up the minions this time around. The minions, relatively safe dunk there, so SOT able to get out of this one alive. Scream continuing, it was his power curve, I think, for Scream in game 1. Very slow, couldn't match the pace of Lasbra, but doing a much better job of it here in game number 2. eUnited now peel away the Pyromancer. Mifflin, I mean, I hesitate to say it, but it seems like almost the exact same from what we saw in game 1 if the teams were just flipped. Now it's eUnited pulling away a sneaky Fury, uncontested by the Renegades. Immediately go over to the Pyromancer, take that one away. eUnited answering back with some great objective control of their own after what we saw Renegades do in game 1.
And I think a lot of that is afforded to them from this Merlin pick as well. Hurrywind's been able to get into these objectives largely uncontested because eUnited have pressure in every single lane, and he's got fantastic damage potential. Merlin potentially one of the best mages for burning down objectives. Maybe not so much in Confirm. We might even give that title towards the Thoth that Ven's playing. But so far, Renegades have been forced onto the back foot from minute 0, and they haven't been able to find a foothold anywhere on the map, even though they have been trying to make some proactive plays a la Lazra.
Here comes Lazra, though. He needs to be proactive around Barracuda. Gaijay uses his ultimate there. Snoopy down under the ground. Big damage from this Pele. Oh, but the pluck, that's enough to set up the kill for Gaijay. Hurrywind in behind Barracuda, this Cupid. No chance he gets out alive, and Hurrywind finally on the board now. eUnited rotate over. They sniffed that one out. Lazra re-engaged in to try to save the life of his carry, unable to do so. Now Jake maybe being looked at. Wondered if Scream was maybe feeling the tower dive, but a 2 for none. eUnited pull a couple away.
Shouts to Snoopy in that little engagement around Lazra. Had he used his tail whip even a second earlier, it's very likely that the Pele would have been able to finish up Ram or even turned it into a double kill, but since he waited until the ultimate was finished channeling, he was able to disrupt all the burst damage and make sure the team fight swings in his favor, buying time for Hurrywind to rotate in and get a kill on the Barracuda. eUnited are looking very cohesive right now.
Well, here's the big win for SOT, is he was able to pick up his blue buff, so if nothing else, he at least has that going for him. But the trades are just so difficult now. It's the Void Shield for Variety pulling a little extra presence in some of these trades now. So SOT having a tough time. But I guess all things considered, I mean, 0-3-1, just one level behind. And it will still go Soul Eater, looks like, after the Breastplate of Valor. It's now maybe on SOT Myth or some of the other Renegades guys, do you think, to start to put some pressure elsewhere on this map. Variety, I'll drop to you in a moment, just to see if Variety got in that execute threshold. Won't this time, but do you think this game changes dynamically when SOT is finally at a point where he's able to ult into some of these fights, and he's not getting tower dove by Variety on cooldown?
I think, yeah, you've got a point there. If SOT is able to rotate out, especially towards this Gold Fury, and get involved before it goes down, that would have been huge for the Renegades, but having his ult forced out as he gets dove continually over on that solo side of the map, man, this dude is getting manhandled, by the way, Dave.
It's nuts!
Just chasing him down. eUnited really do just kind of secure themselves a huge win there. Renegades needed that Gold Fury fight to go their way. Now it's looking real bad.
Wow, SOT. Solar Troll soloed by Variety, and not the first time we've seen that in this lane here. So the ward dance now looking a little funny here in game number 2 as SOT 0-4-1 on the store. 3-1-2 for Variety now, his solo lane counterpart. This Achilles is going to be very difficult to deal with. Doesn't help that now 13 minutes in, it is a 7,500 gold lead for eUnited. XP even worse than that. This is I think if you look at how bad game 1 was for eUnited, the only way mentally to bounce back is then manhandle the Renegades in even more convincing fashion.
And they're doing it perfectly. This is a very large lead, larger than anything we saw 13 minutes into game 1, and it seems like eUnited haven't let go of the gas pedal a single time. The second Gold Fury respawn, eUnited was there. The second Pyromancer respawns, I expect eUnited to be there, and it's getting dangerously close to that phase of the game. I'm thinking around level 17 for Hurrywind. They could start looking at the actual Fire Giant itself, and with a lead that they've established at this point, Renegades only have 3,700 gold total. I mean, we could talk about the disparity, which is in itself also insane, but having this low amount of gold this early on in the game, just look at their builds, man. They're getting outclassed across the board. The tankiness is coming on very late. Soul Eater just gets finished for SOT. He's going to have to stack that up before he gets any real value out of it. It's going to be a really long time until Renegades are going to look competitive in any of these team fights.
Yeah, it is a 500 gold lead for Snoopy over everyone but Venenu on Renegades, if that gives you a better idea. Jake has to burn his ultimate here. Snoopy will do the same. Hurrywind unable to pull back Jake here, but Scream is rotated in around the backside. Another kill for eUnited here. Barracuda being looked at by Scream, but the carries left alone. Venenu and Barra back beneath the tier 2 tower. The guy's got, what, 10 HP, but Barracuda stays alive, so a small win there for the Renegades. Ultimate connects onto Gaijay. Here's Lazar as well. Nice Aegis, buys him some time, and he turns around and gets the kill, but SOT will drop right back down. There's the rotation we wanted to see from this store. A double kill now for SOT on the rotation through. Snoopy nearly went down. Mifflin, all things considered, Renegades very present in that fight if Variety does not take down Venenu, which it looks like he won't.
It looks like he won't, but we've already seen from Variety that he's willing to dive, and if that fails, dive again. I think that is as good as you could hope for a fight to go for the Renegades, able to return out those kills. And you could tell immediately how execution-focused it was. If Ven misses that ultimate, it means Lazarus wouldn't have been able to blink in and look for his own. If Lazarus doesn't do that, SOT wouldn't have been able to dunk down and find a kill. Renegades had to play that fight essentially perfectly around those core 3 members, and even then, they play it perfectly, still get punished. They didn't win that engagement by any means. They've got a 3-for-2 or in favor of eUnited. The gold lead's continually growing. The objective's respawning, and eUnited's the first one on the scene. Renegades are fighting a very steep uphill battle.
Yeah, the elevation of which is shown on the XP and gold charts here. 10k XP, 7,500 gold. I think that one looks a little better, like maybe mentally for the Renegades. Had they officially gotten the kill onto Snoopy, at least evens things up. But I guess for us, and even for viewers, and really for the Renegades now, they've got a good barometer of where a fight can go if that execution is there. That is a big if. You know, Venenu has to hit the ideal target, Vazra has to be in the right range, but that at least shows that despite a 7,500 gold differential, Renegades, in a situation where everything connects properly, they can continue to claw their way right back in. Hurrywind has kept somewhat even with Venenu here this game as well, so that's been the most even lane on the map. And the Pyromancer will be chipped away by eUnited here. So, all things considered, Venenu has kept himself relevant in this game, and that shows, I think, in that previous fight.
This group up from eUnited on the right side of the map, SOT being forced to use his hammer, might even lose his life before he gets up. You can't be teleporting the lane, SOT, especially this far behind, especially knowing that the majority of eUnited just cleared Pyromancer. It plays a big ding sound so you know when they're there, and he just uses his one escape ability immediately to clear out a couple of archers. It's a bit of a misplay from him, and now eUnited know that on the left side of the map there are 2 members. Variety's got him distracted. Fire Giant should go down to 3.
Yep. Call good eyes there, Mifflin. Hurrywind is going to melt through this just fine. Guy J is there as well. Jake plucked on through. The damage will connect here. Snoopy, once again, is going to use his ult down onto Jake. Slow down this Ymir, and he's going to grab the kill as well. So a bit of a bait now in the Fire Giant, but they really just need to buy some time. If they get this kill onto Venenu, the FG will be just as easy. Guy J, one more shot would have got it done, but instead Variety will take the easier route through it. Barracudas continue to split push down, grabs a couple of towers over in the long lane. But ultimately, the FG will fall, and eUnited will be able to have that one in their back pockets.
Look where Lazarus is. If eUnited back up a little bit, they might be able to spot him out, but it looks like he was trying to spring a trap himself. Instead, eUnited, very smart, just back up, spend up all the gold you just got from winning 3 back-to-back team fights and clearing out a Pyromancer and clearing out a Fire Giant. And now they're going to be able to spend it all up, group up, clear out what towers are barely remaining left for Renegades, likely group up around mid, or if they are able to, spot out this grouping from Renegades on the left side of the map and look for a pick themselves. With Ven not having beads on this next defense, I don't imagine we see Renegades even group up on a tier 2. Doubly so now that Barracuda's beads are down as well.
Well, there goes the Primal Fury, now the 3rd of the game for eUnited. I mean, any team fights now the Renegades are looking at, you're going against a level 19 Variety, a level 18 Scream, 19 minutes into the game. And those 2 alone, probably enough to tear you apart. The Renegades now just playing catch-up, so any amount of time they can buy is going to look good here for them. Interesting grouping here. 3 members of the Renegades looked in the mid lane, now are going to back themselves off. Tier 2 tower taken down. Now it's just the mid lane towers left for the Renegades. 4-to-1 split, it looks like, with Variety over in solo.
I like this. The siege potential from the Renegades, or the siege defense rather, is pretty strong. SOT can poke from a range. Ven obviously poking from further away than anyone from eUnited can return damage from. If anyone steps up too far, the 408 should be able to separate the fight with a wall, and Barracuda's got a no-play zone ultimate that he can just drop inside of his Phoenix. So it makes sense to me that eUnited want to play it a little bit safer, not risk that 5-on-5 engagement on the Phoenix until they've cleared out every single objective that should be easy for them. But that's not to say that eUnited siege isn't strong in and of itself. If Awesome Jake steps up too far and gets plucked by Snoopy, he's dead. I mean, this dude's level 13. He's just dead. If anyone escapes barely with a sliver of their health bar, they're dead because Guy J don't miss. And it seems like Renegades aren't even willing to defend this Phoenix.
United are just going to walk in, and it's Variety first through the door. My God, that Phoenix absolutely evaporated by United. Variety feeling a little bit too much pressure, though, is going to have to ult his way away. And again, if we're drawing similarities to Renegades in Game 1, eUnited do the exact same as what the Renegades did. They just group on these Phoenixes and kind of walk at it, and the Renegades don't feel comfortable enough, or maybe don't see the opening, that conditional opening, to engage on the fight. So a win there for eUnited.
Look, this is the second set in a row that I've casted of Renegades where they have grouped up for a Phoenix defense and not used a single active ultimate or ability on the actual defense. I think Awesome Jake was the only one to step up to throw a wall in front of the Phoenix to block a couple of auto attacks, which maybe bought him about half a second there. It seems like Renegades are just very cautious when it comes down to these late game team fights when they are on the defensive. Doesn't seem like they really know how they want to engage it, what the strategy is going to be to stop the push. And when they're hesitating like that, it creates these opportunities for eUnited to literally waltz into your Phoenix and auto attack it for free without having to expend any of their own resources, which is only going to make further Phoenix's sieges even easier for them.
Well, it's got to be difficult. I mean, so much in Game 1 was SOT finding the big stuns and, the roots and taunts from Lasbra on the Erlang Shen. So some of that obviously missing. Maybe you're hoping, or were hoping rather, if you're the Renegades, that Jake was going to be able to find some more consistent wall stuns. Hasn't quite come to fruition though. 0-4-1 on Jake out of the long lane here. Snoopy has absolutely stepped his performance here for game number 2. He ults down into the backline, a stun over onto Hurrywind. It's going to slow down this fight. Barracuda, though, has to burn the actives. Dashes away. Fields of Love defensively here. SOT. He's found an engagement with Lasbra. They split up eUnited, and this is maybe the fight that the Renegades need. Snoopy quite low here, but now eUnited are able to regroup the core all in the middle there. Venenu rips the ultimate through. Lasbra goes down. Gaijay has turned around the damage. The crits down on a Scream. Nice wall there from Jake. 1-for-1. Renegades save, rather they don't, the left side Phoenix.
That's the best defense we've seen from him, getting that 1-for-1 trade. Lasbra able to get into the back line because Jake separates that fight with the wall, keeping Snoopy and Hurrywind separated from each other, so the tail whip wasn't able to peel it out. That's clean play from the Renegades, but again, because of the deficit that they're already at and the objectives that eUnited were able to tear away, being mid and left side Phoenix, Fire Giant respawning in 30 seconds, Renegades most likely won't even be able to step up for the defense here. I think they've only prolonged the inevitable. eUnited are in a very good position to continue pushing down, and they didn't really have to sacrifice anything. One life for one life in a Phoenix favors eUnited every day of the week.
Yeah, and this is a great spot for eUnited to be in as well. You look at this Fury that's respawning in 40 seconds, that'll be Oni, so at least 2 waves of Oni fire waves if eUnited is able to lock that one down. Big if here. Renegades unsure on how much pressure they'll put on that side of the map. Fire Giant still quite a few minutes away from being enhanced. But I guess I like this look, Mifflin, from the Renegades. They've started to close up some of those gaps, reach level 20 on SOT and Ven. Hurrywind still 1 level behind. They're at least feeling confident enough at this point to step forward and look towards an FG fight.
They've closed the XP gap, but the builds are still not looking too good. Jake still hasn't moved in towards his 5th item, still has a blessing, as does Ven, still working on his 5th item, still has a blessing as well. Whereas on the side of eUnited, we're looking at 6 items coming online. People are starting to really finish up their builds. Some relics have started to get upgraded. Things are looking tough. And again, the forced commitment from eUnited on these Phoenixes have been relatively low, so it's allowing them to continually put pressure everywhere on the map at their strongest state. I think if Renegades are looking to put any sort of defense up around this Fire Giant, which it kind of seems to me like they are based on their positioning, they need to move in before it gets pulled, force out a little bit of their abilities, back up, elongate the fight, and try and win that way. Use the healing from Cupid to your advantage.
Well, that decision tree won't be met here as Venenu being looked at by Variety on the backside of the fight. SOT has found Hurrywind, though, doesn't have the damage to completely delete him. Hurrywind wants to re-engage here. Doesn't have the Aegis. SOT as such will find the double hammer. 1-for-1 trade here. Lasbra has found some squishy targets, and he's gotten the kill. Execute through from Variety. Now make it 2. The Achilles swings, and he connects on 2 out of 2 shots. Snoopy finally gets the kill onto Barracuda. Venenu lasts alive. He's going to have to dash his way out of this one. And eUnited only have 3 members. They're going to chase down Venenu here, actually make him burn his beads. It's all down to Scream to finish off the kill. A deicide for eUnited 25 minutes in.
And Variety's already knocking on the door of the Titan. This is just about GG. I don't even think Jake has time to respawn here. The closest one to respawning, 15 seconds left on it. It should go down for free here, especially considering fire, Oni minion waves flooding in from the right side, normal fire wave from the center of the map. eUnited completely shift this game around, and it seems like this is the first time that they've come in with a strategy that not only is working, but is working to the strengths of this team. They played around hi-rez. They allow Variety to absolutely carry this game. Scream looks phenomenal on this Nemesis pick. If eUnited are trying to do anything in Game 3, it's run back Game 2.
That's right, and Renegades want to run back Game 1. So this one had 28 kills in almost just as many minutes. I don't remember how many Game 1 had. These two teams, it's not that they're exchanging punches in-game. This set is now 2 exchanged punches one way or another. eUnited blow Renegades out of the water here in Game number 2. And I think, Mifflin, my thought still, I think, kind of stands, that if you're eUnited to mentally bounce back after the way Game 1 was, you need to return the favor to Renegades, and they absolutely did.
I think Renegades may have been a little bit trigger happy with the taunts. There's got to be nothing more morally crushing than talking some smack and then getting smacked harder than you ever smacked them. I mean, if I'm on the side of Renegades, especially if I'm SOT, being the sole proprietor of all those taunts, and immediately essentially losing your team Game 2 to getting soloed, manhandled by Variety for 15 solid straight minutes, I mean, I don't know how I'd recover.
Yeah, not many worse for wear. More so than SOT after Game number 2. This one is all tied up. eUnited able to strike back. We'll have a Game 3 right after the desk breaks down this one.
Thanks, Dolson. This has been an exciting set, and you know what else has been exciting? That we're doing a crossover with Avatar: The Last Airbender. Pick up that battle pass now. You know, I just got through ugly crying to Uncle Iroh's Leaves from the Vine, and I feel like the best way to pay respect would be to play as Ankora and Zuko as Susano on the battleground by picking that pass up. You get Zuko instantly when you pick up the premium pass and unlock the rest as you move through. So now I can bring on Aggro, who and I just took a pretty awful loss in Codenames not too long ago. Instead, we have to talk about this set, though, here, Aggro. eUnited bouncing back after that tough Game 1 there with Renegades. We said the draft looked strong, and they played it well here.
And that's the big difference for me, is that their draft was good. I thought their draft Game 1 was fine. Not as good, for sure, but still fine. It was the actual in-game execution that went wrong. This time it was really, really well executed by eUnited. And what do you know? Whenever you see Variety and Scream both have good games, eUnited is going to win. Like that, those two are that good to where they can just win you the game with just those two. They can 2v5. It's just not happened that often for them so far here in Season 7, but I mean, obviously, Variety has a fantastic game. The soul read on the Solar Troll to get that execute off the hammer was incredible. Scream was here to help get Variety ahead in this game, and really Harry did not let go once he got off to that lead. But Scream was all over the map as well. I mean, you look at the early game, Variety gets the solo kill on the right side, where at the same time that Scream is ganking the left side, they set the Ymir behind, which is always an easy way to start winning. It just feels like that character just loses so much value. In Solar Troll's decision-making, not ideal here in this game. I think you can say that a couple different times with that dunk down, and not just that one, but some of his decisions to stand and fight Variety clearly did not go his way.
And I think eUnited are just the beneficiaries, as you said, of a much better composition in general. And I think really what you want to do is you want to enable Scream and Variety to be able to battle, right? Remember when Scream and Herwin were looking for that fight, but they were on the Erlang Aphrodite, and that didn't quite, or the Wheelish Aphrodite, and that didn't quite work as well. Enable those guys to take these scrappy, smaller battles they like to take as sort of rogue agents sometimes on their own. And I think that makes eUnited look a bit better. Give those guys the right tools, and they should be able to get the job done.
And I wonder if Achilles is going to be the focal point here for Renegades, because clearly United highly value it. In both games, they've top 2'd that pick. So I wonder if Renegades are in first pick yet again, now it's their choice. I would expect an Achilles ban this time around, just because it has been so good for United so far.
That's a good point, though. There is a lot to follow in these picks and bans, so why wait any longer? Let's hop right into the picks and bans for this also important game number 3. Renegades, who have managed to get a win but have been a bit struggling, would love to get a little bit momentum and prove that they can beat the teams at the bottom of the league. And eUnited would love to not be the bottom of the league, grab this win, no longer be winless, and catch back up with Obey after that loss that they had. And one of the things we've been following has been, you know, what is Solo or Troll going to be playing over there in the solo lane? He has been top picking this Thor when available, and he wants to run that back again. I wonder if eUnited are comfortable letting him have that once more.
I think you have to be, because there's so many other things you have to ban, and if Renegades are willing to first pick that again, remember that's exactly what they first picked in game number 2, and Variety still did that to that pick.
It's true.
I think you're pretty happy to give it up this time if Renegades are willing to take it.
Might be the idea. So far, though, these bans are looking pretty standard. Persephone, Cthulhu, the Ola run of the Emoja. That means there's a lot still out there. The Freya's got to be taken care of. You wonder about if maybe the Achilles could be something that could slide here into this spot as well and try and take that one away, since it's so clear at this point that eUnited are really valuing it, and maybe they might be worried it wouldn't come back to them. There's a lot of options, I think, for eUnited to take with this last ban, and it is going to be the Thor. But this is what you were worried about, Aggro. If they ban the Thor here, Renegades can get whatever they want with this top pick.
That is true, but I don't think Renegades were going to take anything. They weren't going to take Thor first overall again. I think Hercules is the big one that gets let through here, and yeah, Renegades take it. We haven't seen Jake play a whole lot of Hercules, and I don't really know why, because it's exactly what Jake wants to do. He wants the W key at you and try and kill you, and this was banned by Renegades the first 2 games, so that tells me that they don't necessarily think it's their premier top pick, but they might feel like they kind of have to take it in this slot, and that's going to leave Nemesis Achilles. I'd be shocked if United went anything different here with this second pick, because I feel like you want to give that to Variety, though it is worth noting that maybe they want to give him a counter pick opportunity and try and really feast on that solo lane again and not let Solo or Troll be the one to dictate that matchup.
But I can't think of any reason why you would not go back to these top 2 picks. I'm with you in the value of Variety getting a late game sort of counter pick, or late draft counter pick, to speak more clearly. But after the way that those 2 played in game 2, I'm doing whatever it takes to try to get them to run that game back. I don't know if they necessarily have to come back to those same picks again that we saw, the Merlin that was paired with the Sobek and the Rom. But I think the Rom in particular, if I'm United, you might want to come back with this next 3rd pick.
Yeah, so that's the tension point, is that when you have a player like Guy J who's looked really good on one pick in particular, it does make you a little bit more one-dimensional. And I feel like if the playbook's wide open here for eUnited, I think I would prefer to go Sobek in this exact slot to try and give Snoopy that same front line, that same confidence, and you can really be disruptive on Sobek, even against Hercules, who feels at times unmovable. I would like the Sobek here for eUnited, but I agree that I think they might go Rom, just to make sure that Guy J is on one of his premier picks.
But as you said, don't you feel like that hamstrings them a bit? But maybe not. eUnited moving away from the ROM, prioritizing the Merlin for her win. Neither one of the picks that I think you or I felt maybe stood out in that last game, where I was highlighting the ROM and you, the Sobek. But it looks like eUnited are trying to solidify that right side of the map, right? They have their mid laner, jungle, and solo laner already locked in if they go into the same spots from last game, and it looks like they will. So this does leave their support and their hunter on a bit of an island, though.
And so far, you would expect Renegades to have their duo lane already set up, though that tier ban, Solo Patrol plays a lot of tier as well. It's not just a pick for Awesome Jake, but maybe that could be Solo Patrol on the Hercules in the solo lane. We've kind of thought of Hercules as a Guardian-only sort of pick, you know, a support-only sort of pick, but I think it's possible that we could see him be taken into the short lane.
Well, look at this. Renegades electing to ban the Cabrakan away. We were thinking that maybe this would be the time to break up that draft from last game and maybe get a ban onto the ROM or the Sobek. But it's eUnited who banned away the Sobek, even though they would have been the first pick after. So they're clearly planning to go somewhere different in terms of what Snoopy is picking, especially because there's a chance that Renegades might have even banned that Sobek with their last one. So they must have wanted to make sure, in a world where they pick something else, that Sobek wasn't up for Renegades.
And no ROM ban either for Renegades, so that United can now pretty simply just take ROM and then wait on their last pick for Snoopy and support to see exactly what he's going up against. Getting some clarity on where this Hebo is going is going to be very helpful, I think, for United's draft, because Hebo can go in mid or in the jungle. Lasbra, I don't really recall having a whole lot of Hebo experience, but I think it's pretty fair to say that he will try and emulate what Fred is doing a lot of the time. Those two very close personally, and I think that their play style and the way that they play the map is very similar at times. So you kind of expect that he would have a Hebo just because I know Fred plays a lot of it, but otherwise, I think that it's pretty hard to call exactly where that's going to go.
Well, if they want to try and move around, I mean, there is still the option to pick up a Mage ADC to go with the Fafnir, but that's not going to be the idea. It'll be the Thoth. You talked about how you thought we might see Jake come down to this Fafnir pick back in Game 1, I believe. The Pixam answered that one, but we're seeing it here in Game 3, paired with this Thoth and this Jingwei. Now that you have a look at the holistic draft, looks like we're going to be seeing the Hebo jungle Hercules solo at this point. How do you like Renegade's chances?
I don't see how this Fafnir is better than putting Hercules support and SOT on something else in the solo lane, something that can bring a little bit more physical pressure than going with this Fafnir, unless they really just feel like Jake is far more comfortable on picks like Fafnir. And the way the Renegades have picked and banned, I think that is pretty obvious. They want to get Jake on some of those smaller comfort picks that might not be quite as meta. I don't think Renegade's composition flows together very well at all, frankly. I think that there's a lot of tension on when you want to be using your CCs. The CC is a little bit unconfirmable on their side. They've got a lot of magical damage, but it takes a long time to get going, and both these games have been so fast-paced. I wouldn't have wanted to go something slow building in the mid lane or in the jungle. I think eUnited just came away with a far better draft because it's very, very similar to what they had last game, and it's only the Sobek for the Kuzenbo. And the Kuzenbo is still disruptive, good magical damage that's going to be annoying for Renegades. It's kind of exactly what Sobek is. And unless Renegades come in with a different execution game plan, then I think we might see something that's a little bit closer to that of Game 2.
And what's interesting to me, aside from the fact that eUnited picked almost the same draft, is that Renegades didn't ban any piece of it. The only piece they couldn't get, eUnited banned themselves in the Sobek. So Renegades must have been confident that they could play up against this comp a little bit differently. I think that to some extent they're right? I mean, solo or troll, you don't get soloed a lot in the short lane. That's probably not going to happen again. Maybe they're right to think that maybe they can run this back and it'll look a little bit different. They've got some different picks.
I do agree that I can't imagine SOT has as much of a struggle here in Game 3 as he did in Game 2. So that's at least a start.
Well, Renegades and eUnited, game number 3. We're ready to start it off.
Thank you, Finch and Aggro. And I think, Mifflin, we got to reset the table here. Remember, this is eUnited searching for their first win in Phase 2 of the SPL. Renegades looking for their second. So both of these teams desperate, maybe not the right word, but in need of some momentum here as far as standings go. Doug still working the cameras for us for what should be, at least if Game 1 and Game 2 are any indicator, a thrilling finale to this set. Though, Mifflin, you and I were talking, you know, this is the one that's going to go 50 minutes and we're going to have like 6 or 7 kills.
Yeah, I can really see that when the stakes are on the line like this, especially with Renegades having a slightly weaker start to the season and eUnited obviously trying to find their first win, that it's going to be a much slower pace just because they're hesitant to play around that knife's edge of an early game. But I think even then, we might just see them get dragged into eUnited's pace, Renegades that is, because eUnited has this very strong early game draft into the Renegades draft that is going to take forever to come online. You've got Hebo in the jungle, you've got Thoth in mid, Barracuda's playing Jingwei, who's going to need some itemization like Crit to really start seeing some value. Fafnir really only starts to shine once he gets that ultimate online and group up on these team fights. I think if eUnited want to, they've got a draft that can completely abuse what Renegades are bringing to the early.
So that's a small moment there, Mifflin, but an interesting start where Jake and Barracuda save the hog from the purple buff and then go start the harpy instead of immediately moving over to the wave. That left Gaijay and Snoopy to push the final few minions over. Gaijay reaches level 2 first here in this lane. So a small moment, but an interesting piece of strategy nonetheless. That's opened up Snoopy to try to get the push onto Jake. And I think you look at kind of the tug and pull that we've had in this long lane as this set has gone on. There hasn't been many kind of 2-on-2 engagements. It's been these junglers, and maybe this is kind of a set-wide sentiment. Scream and Lasber really dictated the pacing maybe of the long lane, at least in the early game. Barracuda and Gaijay have been able to kind of slowly build themselves up into the late in maybe both games.
I want to echo that sentiment. Sure, it is the jungler setting the pace, but it seems like they've been setting the pace around this short lane, and we're already seeing Lazarus try and rotate over there and see if he can get some pressure there. Because be it Variety or be it Solo or Troll, whoever has pulled a lead in this set has absolutely dominated the lane, and then was free to rotate out towards mid and put some pressure there. And I think in this game in particular, when you have a god like Merlin and a god like Thoth in mid, we're going to be completely exposed to ganks. Getting that freedom of having your solo laner rotate out can be hugely impactful.
There's a good rotation in onto Venenu. Hurrywind and Scream are going to be around the side. Nice speeds by Ven to dash himself away. He's reached level 3, so full suite of cooldowns ready to go. Lazarus taking a good bit of damage here. Jake is now over from the long lane as well. Barracuda just around the wings. Hurrywind full HP. Can't say the same for Scream. Lazarus there. Water hands. Final shot. First blood. Over to the Renegades and now make it 2 as Barracuda's picked up the kill onto Hurrywind. Our thoughts be damned. We've already got 2 kills on the board 2.5 minutes in.
Phenomenal counter rotation from Renegades there. eUnited chase out way too far. That Scream walks between the tier 1 and tier 2 mid tower to find that slice and dice slow. There's not really any follow-up CC that could have come through there. Maybe if Snoopy had his blink available, he would have been able to get in and turn that into something. But instead, he just kind of drags the entirety of eUnited into a bad positioning, allowing Renegades to just get that pincer maneuver. Clean play, and the CC was well placed as well. Aggro expressed earlier that he was worried about how these engagements are going to go because all this CC is so finicky on the side of Renegades. But right there, it looks just fine.
And right as we're talking about kind of the pacing of the long lane as well, it's a great rotation really from both long lanes to try to get involved there, but it's Barracuda who really benefits here. 101 for him, Lazarus 101 as well. So no real level lead just yet, but maybe a small lead for Barracuda as far as the long lane goes. And you start to look towards solo now, and that's where Lazarus is going to rotate through. Finds the knock-up, crushing wave, but the ultimate from Variety is going to get him out of danger. SOT does have the boulder. This is going to be a snipe from range if he can connect. We'll see if Variety can make another big play. Won't go for it here. Variety will walk away from this one alive. But buying some space for SOT to operate, I think, very important here for the Renegades after the way Game 2 went.
I'm surprised to see SOT not even try and go for that boulder, and now he's caught in a bad position. That CC immunity wasn't too helpful.
Yeah, no way he gets out of this one alive. Variety has returned thanks to the TP. Snoopy has to blink forward, and Variety not going to finish off the damage. eUnited, they give it over to Hurrywind on a quick sneak over from the mid lane. Some action now in long as GuyJ's taking a good bit of damage. So SOT thought he had a moment to breathe, but wasn't the case. eUnited immediately collapsed.
That is an interesting play that you don't often get to see. eUnited actually made the active decision of where they wanted that kill to land. Scream could have easily taken it himself. Instead, he decides to back. Variety could have taken it. He just walks away. Snoopy kind of hovers around just to make sure that it does come through, but they really did want that kill to land onto this Merlin. Tells me that they're going to be looking for some early game objectives, so they want to have this Merlin farmed up so that the burn potential is there. Very interesting play from eUnited.
That's right, and that'll get Hurrywind off to a good start here in this game after what was a red buff invade gone wrong for United just earlier than that. Really the first time, maybe, Mifflin, so far in this set, after the first few kills are on the board, one of the two teams hasn't completely pulled ahead of the other already. Looking towards this Gold Fury, though, it's the Oracle's locked in, so United will have a little extra intel as far as the movements of the Renegades go. Snoopy's just trying to block out this purple buff, but we'll get dropped down. Hurrywind now looked at by Lasper and Venenu. Snipe charge, snipe connect, crushing wave, water hands. Good combo there from the Renegades as Hurrywind falls for the second time this game. Snoopy will use his ultimate Scream, blink forward, drops the ult down onto Venenu, and the dash and the auto gets it done as Scream will pick up a kill now. Lazarus stays alive. Big damage from this Evo.
Nice knockup.
Oh, there's a knockup on the back end. Barracuda, the airstrike up and over. GuyJ, half HP. He'll fall as well. Jake, a nice double there for the Fafnir and Renegades. Now they pull a lead.
Look, I thought that fight was going to go in eUnited's favor the second they were able to collapse onto it. Ven was completely Lazarus' ult was down, but that knockup from Barracuda completely changes the face of it. The damage potential was there. Scream's slice and dice was just about to come up, would have finished off Lazarus, but instead Barracuda comes in from the ropes, just RKOs him, turns that fight around on its head. Jake finds some clean stuns, and Renegades rotate in just in a magnificent fashion. but it doesn't really open up the map that much. They weren't able to steal away any buffs. Gold Fury doesn't go either way either. eUnited have done a good job of making sure that there wasn't anything that the Renegades could do on the tail end of it, but it's going to take more than that to win the game.
It is a small lead. Nice invade there from Snoopy. Are you going to pay with it? With your life, though. He picked up the red buff, and Anu unable to lock it down, has to use the ult, and Barracuda now on a killing spree 7 minutes into the game. Gold Fury potentially opened up for the Renegades. They'll think twice, look towards Guy J. Snoopy on a bit of an island there by himself will get the red buff down, but hands another kill over to Barracuda. 303 for the Jingwei.
We're looking at a 2-level disparity onto Snoopy now, falling way behind on Awesome Jake, who's already going to outscale this Kuznabo come late game, just because coerce and underhanded tactics are such fantastic tools into the enemy team composition. I think Snoopy needs to slow it down a little bit, get out of this really proactive pace that he's been trying to set for himself, and return back to a bit of farming so he can close that gap.
7-2 for the Renegades. About 1,500 in the gold lead here. Lasbro 203, probably counting his lucky stars. He was able to escape that previous fight with his life. And I think it's sort of that interesting aspect of Hebo out of the jungle and the fact that Lasbro's already got some good scaling on his side. Look at this aggression, setting the pace. This is what Renegades are now looking to do, burning away at Snoopy. Jake on a killing spree of his own. And it's really our fault, I think, Mifflin. We talked about how the long lane had been happy just to sort of free farm and scale, and it's Renegades who hear us and are punishing eUnited.
And it's looking so good, man. They realize immediately that Snoopy would be an easy target for them to take out, so they put all the pressure onto him, and now Guy J getting dove.
My sweet summer child has to dodge roll away from that one, and Barracuda will hit the final auto. 4-0-4 for Barracuda 8 minutes into the game. So the tug of war is now pulling back towards the Renegades, and I think now the best thing to do, since Renegades are mirroring their Game 1 performance, is look for them to mirror what they did in Game 1 when they built a very similar gold lead, a very similar kill lead. Remember, they locked down some of these objectives for free. It was the Fury immediately over into the Pyromancer. That's what the Renegades had been missing. They weren't missing in Game 1, and we'll probably need to see a little more of here in Game 3 to hopefully finish off the set for them. eUnited, of course, not out of it yet.
But it's looking so good for the Renegades, and it seems like I'm starting to get a better grasp of what this Hercules pick was for. It seems like SOT really is getting left on an island now, and Barracuda said, I don't want to be a spectator in the early game. I want you guys to play around me. Let's play around this duo side of the map. If we get pressure here, we'll get the Gold Fury, and that's why we're seeing these continuous dives onto the enemy back camps, onto this red buff, onto their purple. They're really trying to establish pressure on that duo side of the map.
That's right, SOT has pulled a 1-level lead over Variety, and it was literally the opposite in game number 2. So the Hercules at least paying off in some form for the Renegades here. His one death, a little overextension, maybe an overstay after they chased down Variety, unable to get the kill. And you talk about Barracuda getting involved, and 4-0-4, as I've mentioned, perfect for starting up a Gold Fury maybe soon, a massive lead on the left side of the map over for the Renegades. And I like this play from Lasbro. Show some love over onto the blue buff side as well. Allow SOT to continue to build on that lead. Clinical from Lasbro in the jungle, picking up the pace from what we saw in Game 2.
It is looking much, much better. And he got involved on this Hebo very early on. Generally, you'd expect him to wait a little bit, trying to get some farm. He's going to be outscaled by Nem in the early game, but he said, nope, I want to play now.
He tried to get the knock up onto Variety. SOT unable to follow up. Excavate used just now as well. So Lasbro probably had the damage there, had everything connected, but it didn't. So Variety will live to fight another day. No teleport though, so a small moment where Variety, if he had to go back, would have maybe fallen just a bit behind. Really, for the first time, I think, in this set, Mifflin, we've kind of hit the brakes. We're 20 seconds away from being beneath that 1 kill a minute threshold. That hasn't been the case for many of the games so far here in this set. The Renegades, though, doesn't mean they're not searching. And look at this play. Could be more over onto Variety. Scream close by as well. Water carpet rolled out. Scream is going to try to get re-involved, blink forward. Hey, Snoopy here as well. He surprised me on this one. Ultimate onto Laz, who's able to walk away. SOT tanky enough, knocks back onto Snoopy. Big turnaround here from the Renegades in a 3 versus 2. Lasbro on a killing spree. Scream will do his best to escape. One more knock-up from SOT. Big damage down as he has stunned him. Lasbro has retreated from the fight, so a true 1v1. A 2-for-1 and a big turnaround from the Renegades, showing how far ahead they are.
And they've already got the gold tree pulled and at 50%, but Guy J in the air might be able to steal. Nice reset.
They're going to reset this one down. The snipes will ring out, and this one is just going to help the Renegades pull the Fury. And really, I guess that's what the Renegades were looking for. Let's see how many people we can pull over to that solo lane, and the moment they saw Snoopy to make it an odd-numbered advantage, they immediately go over to that Fury. So 6,000 XP, 4,500 gold. The charts are absolutely spiking here. I mean, you hesitate to be all doom and gloom about it, Mifflin, but we're yet to see one of these teams throw away a lead this big from what we've seen in Game 1 and Game 2. It's going to need to be a big turnaround from eUnited.
And Renegades have the beneficiary of this just late game centric team comp. Hebo, I mean, we highlighted it earlier. Thoth and Jingwei all going to continually get stronger and stronger. I think it really is going to come down to, once late game rolls around, what Aggro brought up on the desk of Renegades' team comp not really having that cohesive factor. The CC that is there isn't really confirmable. Sure, you could say, yeah, if SOT just goes in, finds a pool, follows it up by a punch, and then Jake stuns into a knockup from Hebo, that'll be perfect, but that's all individually hard to do pieces. Just walking in as Hercules isn't always a guaranteed pool. Just finding the hammer from a range on Fafnir, that's not the easiest CC to land, and if eUnited are looking to win a team fight in the late game, that might be something they're looking to exploit.
That's right, no Thor this time around for SOT, first time in the set. That's been a big engage tool for the Renegades so far, and even in Game 2, as blown out of the water as SOT was, he was still finding some good damage and decent engages by the time the game was over. Variety taken down to half HP. Lasbra's set up a tent on the right side of the map over the last few minutes, maybe realizing Barracuda and Jake, even Venenu, are just fine on their own. It's a 2-level lead now for SOT, so I think he would be as well. And now another tower crumbles as Renegades pull one over in the solo lane. Have to see if this rotation, though, Mifflin, maybe pays off in some way. Jake has found Hurrywind in the backline. Variety stunned down here. Jake is going to transform, though, avoids the pullback. Lasbra rolls through, knock up onto Variety, ultimate down, crushing wave is going to get him nice and low, and Jake is going to pick up his 4th kill of the game. Scream has to double dash away. Hurrywind being looked at, tried to turn around some damage, unable to do so. A 1 for none. We'll have to see if Hurrywind sticks his neck back out, but I think the Renegades will take that and leave.
They can just continually look to put pressure wherever they want on the map. I'm sure Renegades' next target is likely going to be that Tier 1 mid tower, which should buy them time while they're working on that for gold for you to respawn. Right now, with only having about 6,000 gold in the lead, I'm sure they're not feeling too confident moving towards any of these more risky objectives a la Fire Giant or just a 5-man group on any of these towers. But as time goes on, it really is just that, a matter of time. Once we start to see these guys tick over to level 15, 16, 17, then Fire Giant's going to become a very real risk that eUnited have to keep their eyes on. Sure, they've got a good team fight in their own right. Variety's got a good engage. Nemesis should be able to blow up anyone who steps out of position. SOT's got to be wary of the Retribution. Hurrywind's got fantastic burn potential, and Snoopy's got the best peel in the lobby. But so far, with a lead as it has been established, Renegades have just dominated every single engagement, reflected in the slash lines, reflected in the XP and gold deficits, and it seems like they haven't let go of their vice-like grip on this match.
Right. And, you know, I want to give props to Venenu as well. You know, so many of these engagements have been on just sort of the ends of the map, long lane, short lane, wherever it is. Venenu has received a little pressure in this mid lane, think very early on where eUnited found that invade. But Venenu has, I think, done a great job, all things considered, of rotating with his team. When the fighting is happening either in the long lane or over in the short lane, this Thoth is continuing to find ways to be present in these fights. He's pulled himself a level ahead, 0-1-6. He's affected 50% of the kills, keeping pace with a few of the other members of his team. So I love what I've seen out of the mid lane as well as everywhere else on the map for the Renegades.
Yeah, it's just looking incredibly good. Now eUnited have to make a hard decision. Do we defend the Tier 1 tower? Well, no, we haven't won any team fights yet. And they're already grouped up here, and we've got a couple people split pushing. We're going to have to give this one up. So Renegades recognize that and decide to push into Tier 2. United have to put up a defense here.
Big fight! Oh, Venenu from downtown snipes down onto Hurrywind. The flicker, not enough this time around. Snoopy pushes SOT back, excavates a boulder down onto his head. Says the Hercules. It's a Tier 2 tower looked at over in the long lane, mid lane as well. Guy J unable to finish off the tower just yet. That'll slow down his back to base. Mid lane Phoenix being looked at here. Double blink in. This is eUnited looking to find this fight, but immediately right back out goes Scream. Variety does the same. Ah, the root from Venenu will lock him in place, and Lasbra gets the kill. It looks like mid lane Phoenix is going to go down. Renegades have pressed down the gas.
Yeah, mid lane Phoenix 16 minutes in. The Blink brothers weren't enough to stop that push. eUnited just weren't grouped up enough. They gave up the tier 1 tower. They weren't willing to stop their split pushes, so they lose out on the tier 2. But even then, a couple people stick around to defend. They get a couple of picks. Oh, well, 2 members are dead. GuyJ still split pushing. Guess that's a free Phoenix. And just in time for Gold Fury to respawn as well. What an enormous swing in favor of the Renegades. eUnited are going to have to make some sort of Hail Mary play at this point. I don't think they have the resources to win a 5-on-5 engagement. Mid Phoenix is already dead, so they can't just rely on farming because there's going to be constant map pressure just from these minion waves. I think it's going to come down to eUnited, their best fight is now. It's not going to get any easier. It's only going to get harder from this point forward. You got to go into this Fire Giant, win Renegades started up, and just pray that you either steal it or just right out win the fight.
Yeah, get those Hail Marys ready in chat, guys. Because it might be here for eUnited. They are 8,000 gold down 17 minutes into the game. I wondered if we would maybe see one game in this set that didn't meet that 1K, or 1 kill rather, a minute mark. And Renegades with a swift fight there are going to turn that one around. 17, almost an 18, so we have lagged just a bit behind. Barracuda, though, you have the beneficiary if you're the Renegades of a 406 Jingwei. 1 item away from being full build there outside of the Blessing. So Fire Giant, 17, 18 minutes in, Mifflin, I don't think that's at all out of the realm of possibility, and probably why the Renegades positioning themselves here. This is an interesting fight if eUnited sell out for this tier 2 tower.
It's going to be tough for them, and it looks like it is going to be a soft defense. They know if they do lose out on even a single member on this defense, Fire Giant's next on the horizon. But keep your eyes on Scream. What is he up to on the other side of the map? He's not going to be able to take a Phoenix himself. Maybe he's just looking for buffs, but Renegades are on fire, bud.
Yeah, the ultimate buff is being pulled by the Renegades right now. Scream is going to be late to this fight. eUnited have delayed the pull, though. Reset over onto the Fire Giant. Crushing wave away, not enough to get the kill. Onto Variety. Lasbra stays alive, though. Execute not enough there. Awesome Jake has found the opening kill here, and Venenu will grab the second. Pyromancer out of nowhere here for the Renegades. 2 for none, and now maybe a Fire Giant on the back end.
Fantastic peel from SOT to keep Lasbra alive in that engagement, but Scream's here now.
And he's not able to steal it away. Renegades will lock this one in. And these are dire moments. You look at those death timers, 24 seconds, 40 seconds for Scream. Snoopy will be back. Renegades walked in a 5v4 under mid lane Phoenix. Now they've got Fire Giant. Tough defense for eUnited.
Yeah, best of luck. There's no way Scream respawns in time to keep this Phoenix alive. And look at SOT's positioning. He says, I don't care if you want to defend your Phoenix. You're not getting through me. I'm a level 18 Hercules. He's completely recovered himself from game 2. And Renegades are playing it incredibly smart. The discipline not to move in towards the Titan there, even having the advantage. They know that the gold deficit is a little bit deceptive right now. They need to back and spend it before it really reflects itself on the power charts. They've got mid Phoenix down already. They know they've got a huge lead that they can play with. Might as well just pressure down the left side, make it a clean victory, take out all 3 Phoenixes, and then work your way to the Titan.
I agree. I think that's exactly where this is what Aggro calls them 99%ers. I mean, this one is almost all but done for the Renegades. You just have to finish off one final bit of pressure cleanly. Mid lane Phoenix will be respawning soon. Renegades will be able to make quick work of that objective should they choose to turn their eyes towards there. How eUnited respond? I mean, you kind of think back to that Fire Giant Scream plugging around in the jungle, maybe looking for some buffs. Still unsure on that one. I'm not sure it makes a huge difference. Definitely was a 4v5 numbers-wise, but the fight kind of regardless was happening elsewhere. And I like this split here from the Renegades kind of to remove myself from that point. Going to regroup, push down the left-hand side. Mid lane Phoenix still low as well.
Scream is still going to be very late to this. The Phoenix will take a lot of damage before he's even ready, but it seems like Snoopy's taking the most of it.
Excavate from SOT goes the opposite direction from Snoopy. Ultimate drop down. SOT takes plenty of damage. The prot shred there from Scream. Left side Phoenix falls. 4v5. Maybe the best opportunity for a fight. Variety. You learned the hard way that it is indeed not. As Renegades still 4 Fire Giant buffs on. They're going to move their way right back into the jungle. So you lose SOT, but now you've opened up either side of the map.
and Variety maintains his ultimate as well as GuyJ. Sure, all 4 are still available for the Renegades, but removing Solar Patrol, having that frontliner not in this mid-Phoenix Siege is going to make it much easier for eUnited, but as you said, still not going to be easy. Still playing into a huge deficit, and Fire Giant, the majority of actives available for both teams, all of them rather available for both teams. It's relatively an even fight despite eUnited having 5 to Renegades' 4.
That's right, SOT 5 seconds away, so Renegades slowing this one down. 1 minute and 10 seconds left on the Fire Giant buff. Snoopy blinks forward, looks for Lasbra, knock up though. Keeps him alive here. Scream on the opposite side is looking for a fight there. Snipes down from GuyJ. Venenu trying to sidestep Snipe away, but GuyJ puts him down. Barracuda airstrike up and over. Onto Hurrywind, Excavate drops down onto GuyJ. Renegades, they found themselves an opening. They're going to storm the gates of eUnited. Variety knocked against the wall. Unstoppable is Barracuda. No chance for Snoopy. This game is over. This set is over. eUnited, no win today.
Tough, man. Remaining the only team in the league without a single win to their name. What was it that Hindu Man called them on the pregame cast? It was the donkeys of the league, something along those lines. Are we allowed to say that? Yeah, I don't have Hindu Man armor. Maybe I should have said it. But Renegades, commanding win. Game 1 looked very strong. Game 3 looked equally as strong. But how that set played out, having eUnited just absolutely pull them out in Game 2, tells me that it really is just that knife's edge of the early game dictating the pace of each one of these matches.
Yeah, Mike, eggshells, I think, for either team. If you realize you get the smallest lead, it is going to get snowballed on you immediately. That one was a lot of fun to watch, kind of in a messy way. I mean, it was very clean from the winning side, but it was just constant chaos and fighting. I had a lot of fun casting this one with you, Mifflin. Renegades able to take it in 3. We'll go back to Finch and Aggro to tell us how we got there.
Thanks, Dolson and Miff. We were wondering here on the desk if Renegades were wise to let eUnited take in a very similar comp that trounced them in Game 2. Well, we have our answer now. Apparently, Renegades exactly knew what was going on and were able to find a confident win here in this third game. And Aggro, I mean, for me, this was really about their ability to establish that early pressure yet again. You heard Mifflin say it at the tail end. The team that got off to a good early start had pressure the rest of the game. Is that a sign of these bottom teams having struggles reclaiming it, or is every team in the league good enough to win with a lead now?
I think it's a good question. I think it is a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. I do think that these two teams in particular are good at pushing the leads that they get, particularly Renegades. Lasbra has always been one of those players that when it feels like he gets ahead, he's really, really active on the map as a jungler, and that can be very difficult to deal with. But whenever the duo lane gets off to that good of a start, I mean, a combined 13-0-20 for Awesome Jake and Barracuda, yeah, you're winning those games. And clearly Variety off to did not have nearly as good as a start as he did in game number 2, and was taken out of that game pretty quickly.
He was. Solo Troll basically stood at his tower line all game, and some of this, for eUnited, I felt, Aggro, was self-inflicted. The chase onto Lasbra underneath the Tier 1 tower at the start of the game that did not pan out, instead resulted in 2 kills going the other way for Renegades. And then, as soon as Renegades got the lead, they were playing like this, aggressive, up in the enemy jungle, looking to catch them out. As you said, when Renegades get a lead, man, they know how to play aggressive.
And Barracuda, you don't often get to start off like 4-0-4 on the Jingwei in the early game, but he did this time, and I bet you he's going to be laughing about it the whole time because he got to do anything he wanted in all of these engagements. Jingwei, what makes her so strong is that it's not just that she's really, really safe and defensive. It's that when she gets a lead, you can never get away from her because she's just so aggressive and can dash so far. And Barra made sure that GuyJ was a non-factor in the rest of the game.
I'm glad you said it like that. The side lanes were taken out of this one, and that left the 3v3 in the middle on a bit of an island to get a bit beaten up, and that's exactly what we saw happen in this game. Renegades now improving, as you take a look at the standings, to 2-4. That puts them ahead of the Knights, Obey, and eUnited. That used to be the spot that belonged to the Knights, that 5th place spot, and we'll see them play a little bit later on today. Perhaps they can reclaim that spot, and eUnited still struggling at 0-6. And just as I was mentioning, we are about to see the Knights play in this very next game. Obey, who gotta be hot coming off their first win of Phase 2, going up against PK, who had some struggles here in this phase. Aggro, is this next set maybe a little closer than we would have thought coming up?
Yeah, they're about the same record. I think they have to be. And Pittsburgh Knights have kind of been able to skate under the radar in terms of their poor play, because eUnited and Obey in particular have looked so much worse on an average basis. But PK has not been good in Phase 2 up until this point. This, not a must-win, but I think for mentality-wise, I think it's a pretty important game for PK.
Perhaps some morale on the line for the Knights. That's in the next set, though. We still got to make sure that we're giving Renegades their fair due after their big win. It is Venenu standing by for the interview.
That's right, I got Ven with me. Ven, ridiculous pace in all the right ways. I mean, that one was a blast to cast and a blast to watch. But really, I think my takeaway looking towards you guys is you set this pace early, and then you were able to push the lead in Game 1 and Game 3 very, very well, very quickly, and in a very convincing fashion. Is that something the team has really started to focus on, getting that early lead and then finding the proper channels to push that into a somewhat early win?
Honestly, those games, in our opinions, were pretty bad. we weren't really happy with, like, I don't know, they feel very scrimmy and, like, kind of running it down more than, like, how, like, team play and stuff like that. So we're not really happy with that. But, I mean, we're glad to get the win, and definitely more to focus on. We weren't happy with this, so we'll be changing stuff, and we'll see what happens after that.
Fair enough. You know, I think this is a tough one to kind of lock down because, you know, Game 1, domination by you guys, and then admittedly dominated by United in Game 2, very similar to Game 1, and then you guys kind of swing back. In a set like that, and you know, maybe your answer to the first question kind of indicates what you might say for this one. What's kind of the mentality when the games are going like that? I mean, I imagine it's kind of difficult to lock down exactly how you should feel.
Yeah, it's just a bit of like you kind of just have to like do what you're doing at the time and kind of just like the thing is like run it down type of thing, and you kind of just have to play off of that because you have like the momentum and you gotta like keep pushing the momentum and keep it going. But usually when you play more team oriented and like do team objectives instead of like trying to look for the solo plays and doing all the different type of stuff, it's just better and it just looks better in general as well, and it's just something that we have to work on for sure. Definitely not happy with those wins at all.
Well, hey, if nothing else, you got yourself in the win column, so big congrats to you there, Venenu. I'll let you rest after a long and exciting weekend of SPL there for you guys. Everyone at home, stick around. PK versus Obey coming up right after this.